Chapter 24:14. Yi Shiwen has arrived. Sure enough, the rumor says that he is dressed in cyan clothes. So, the one next to him should be Princess Ling Fei of the Fallen Angel clan. How come they are together again? The appearance of these two people immediately made everyone a little excited. Both of them were the protagonists of the most talked about recently. So, how could they not compare each other in their hearts? Whether it was Yi Shiwen or Ling Tian, both of them were the targets of comparison. Ling Tian looked at the door after hearing these noises. Sure enough, he saw his younger sister standing beside a man with a slight frown. He strode forward and arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. Then, he opened his mouth and said, "Are you that Yi Shiwen?" "Brother." Ling Fei pouted when she saw him being so overbearing, and she refused to back down. "That's right, I'm Yi Shiwen. You must be Ling Fei. It's our first time meeting. I've heard so much about you." Yi Shiwen replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. However, his gaze was also fixated on Ling Tian. He wouldn't give in even the slightest. The two of them seemed to be opposing each other with equal harshness. Neither of them would give in to the other. The scene looked a little strange. Many people began to feel nervous in their hearts. The script wasn't written like this. They wanted to see the conflict between Yi Shiwen and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, as well as the battle between Ling Tian and Yi Shukong. However, many people were also hoping that a conflict would break out between these two. After all, there were many people who wanted to see a conflict break out between these two. Not bad. Ling Tian looked at Yi Shiwen from top to bottom and said. His tone was cold and arrogant. It seemed that he was very satisfied with Yi Shiwen's performance a moment ago. He didn't feel anything because of Yi Shiwen's confrontation a moment ago. "You're worthy of the name." Yi Shiwen nodded and said, "You blockhead, what the hell are you talking about?" Ling Fei was helpless. Isn't Yi Shiwen adding fuel to the fire? "Worthy of the name. Ha 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 ha." Ling Tian laughed wildly. "You're the first person to say this in so many years. You're the first person to dare to question my strength. However, I didn't come to look for you today. Let's compare notes when we have time in the future. My younger sister isn't that easy to marry." "Brother!" Ling Fei's small face turned red. She shot a glance at Yi Shiwen, and pulled the corner of her clothes. In fact, she almost tore her clothes off. "What? Why can't you let me talk about it? You ran out time and time again to see him, right?" Ling Tian said with a straight face, trying to regain some of his dignity as an elder brother. "Say it again." Ling Fei raised her small eyebrows and angrily said. Yi Shiwen was greatly embarrassed. It seemed as if Ling Fei had run out especially for him. However, he had bumped into her when she had been running away. "Any time," Yi Shiwen said. The surrounding people were confused as they heard this. Why does it sound like something is wrong? What kind of relationship does Yi Shiwen have with Ling Fei? No one has ever said anything about this. However, some people who had some understanding of Yi Shiwen were even more baffled. After all, wasn't Yi Shiwen and the Heavenly Phoenix girl Hua Menghan a couple according to their information? So, how come he was having an affair with Ling Fei at this time? The doubts in everyone's hearts were getting deeper and deeper. It seemed as if they didn't understand what kind of situation this was. Ao Yen and Monk Huizhen had already appeared in front of them. Ao Yen said, "You are Yi Shiwen, right? It's rare for Qin Lai to give such a high evaluation of a person. Now that I've met him today, you're indeed an outstanding talent of the generation. He didn't misjudge us. We are good brothers. Since you're his good friend, you're naturally my good friend too. Let's get to know each other. I'm Ao Yen from the Fire Dragon Palace." "I'm Monk Huizhen from the Minor Western Paradise," Monk Huizhen said. Whether it was the Fire Dragon Palace or the Minor Western Paradise, both of them were well-known king bestowal sections. However, they were different from ordinary king bestowal sections. Therefore, these two sects had an extremely good relationship with the martial sect due to their ancestors. Both of them had set up their headquarters in the heaven realm, and they rarely went to the outside world. Therefore, not many people knew about the background of these two sections. Only a few disciples of each generation would travel outside, and they seemed to be relatively low-key. Especially the Fire Dragon Palace. It was said that the Palace Lord of the Fire Dragon Palace was a member of the remnant dragon clan in the demon realm. Later, he followed the Qin Emperor to war and made great contributions. His strength was also one of the few powerful king bestowal powerhouses. Later, he became independent and established his own Fire Dragon Palace, and took root in the Heaven Realm. This set off a huge uproar in the Dragon Island at that time. Although there were many Dragon Clan members on the Dragon Island, and there were also some who established their own forces, none of them had left the Dragon Island. They all had to rely on the deterrence of the Dragon Island to survive, and the strength of the Dragon Island was also accumulated bit by these people. Therefore, the actions of the Fire Dragon Palace caused an earthquake in the Dragon Palace. If it wasn't for the Qin Emperor, the Dragon Island would have sent an army to conquer them. However, later on, the Fire Dragon Palace's old ancestor was extremely unyielding. He simply killed his way to the Dragon Island and defeated the Island Lord of the Dragon Island at that time. He was given the title of number 1 in the Dragon Clan. Later on, the Dragon Island finally acquiesced to the arrogant actions of the Fire Dragon Palace's Palace Lord. However, after that, the Fire Dragon Palace was relatively low-key and developed in the Heaven Realm. Their relationship with the martial sect was also extremely good. They were an offensive and defensive alliance that everyone knew. It was said that the minor Western Paradise also had a great background. Some people also said that they were originally in the martial sect. Later on, it was just that the two kings had become king bestowal, and they each became independent. In fact, in the eyes of many people, the three sects were also a trinity, advancing and retreating together. Yi Shiwen quickly cupped his hands and said, "Yi Shiwen, from the Hidden Valley. In that case, we are all friends. After the gathering, let's have a good drink." The glaring Buddhist Huizhen said with a smile. The muscles on his face were trembling. Yi Shiwen was a little dumbfounded. Wasn't it said that monks should be clean and pure? Wine, meat, and beauties were taboo. Why did this person look like he was eager to try? Don't care about him. He is just a monk who drinks wine and meat. The elders of the minor Western Paradise can't control him even if they want to. They can only let him do whatever he wants. Ao Yen saw that Yi Shiwen didn't understand and said with a laugh, "What do you know? This is the Zen that I practice. As the saying goes, wine and meat pass through the intestines, but the Buddha stays in the heart." Monk Huizhen said in a serious manner, "Come on, Zen. I have never heard of anyone practicing the Zen of wine and meat. You just can't control your mouth." Ao Yen said unceremoniously. Monk Huizhen chuckled and didn't explain. On the other hand, the siblings Ling Tian and Ling Fei were left out. However, the siblings were arrogant people. They wouldn't take the initiative to talk to Ao Yen and Huizhen when they ignored them. "Hey, this is an ancient medicine. I'm afraid it's 10,000 years old," someone exclaimed. "I also see a tens of thousands of years old ginseng here." "Hiss, it's a kind of blood ginseng. It has already taken the form of a human. It can practice by itself. There's also the supreme dragon beard grass. This is a legendary herb." Everyone was shocked. Even the knowledgeable deities were no different from country bumpkins at this time. It wasn't that there weren't ancient medicines that were tens of thousands of years old in the heavenly realm. Although they were very rare, it wasn't that they hadn't seen them before. However, they had never encountered such a scene that could be seen everywhere. Moreover, the ancient medicines that grew here were many times stronger than those that grew outside. The medicinal efficacy of the same age might be 10 times or even dozens of times different. This was a peerless treasure that could only grow in the 100 birds paying respect to the Phoenix Palace. It's really a place with treasures everywhere. No wonder the martial sect has become more and more prosperous these years. With this 100 birds paying respect to the Phoenix Palace, not only can it suppress the destiny, but it is also a huge treasure house. Just a glimpse of the tip of the iceberg is already so amazing. If we can see the whole picture, it will be really amazing. Is that Yi Shiwen here? The dignity of the one-horned clan can't be trampled so easily. Suddenly, a few figures appeared at the door. Each of these people had tyrannical cultivation, but they all had a common characteristic, which was a single horn on the top of their heads. Their bodies exuded an extremely dangerous aura. After they came in, their gazes swept across everyone, especially the middle-aged man who was the leader. His eyes were filled with killing intent, which had a kind of intimidating feeling. Many people suddenly quieted down, and didn't dare to say anything for fear of attracting trouble. At this time, they all remembered the matter of Du Tian being taught a lesson by Yi Shiwen some time ago. This matter had caused a huge commotion. It had spread along with the matter of soaring heaven Yi Su Kong. Du Tian would be mentioned every time Yi Shiwen was mentioned. This had caused him to lose a lot of face. In fact, many people had started to look down on the one-horned clan. Now it was very obvious that the one-horned clan had come to look for trouble, and to get back at them. At this time, no one wanted to provoke the already furious one-horned clan, so as to avoid getting into trouble. The one-horned clan definitely couldn't let this matter go. It would have been fine if Yi Shiwen hadn't appeared, but now that he had appeared, how could they not get back at him? No one wanted to cause trouble, and no one wanted to show them the way. The one-horned clan was not to be trifled with, and they were in a violent rage. Could it be that Yi Shiwen was easy to provoke? Not to mention his tyrannical and unfathomable strength, not many people would dare to cause trouble even for the sake of the Hidden Valley. However, it was obvious that the one-horned clan was thoroughly enraged. Du Tian was the son of their clan leader, and teaching Du Tian a lesson was simply making their clan lose face. Not long after they arrived, another figure suddenly appeared in the teleportation formation at the entrance. Chapter 24:15. This was a proud figure. After a burst of divine light, he appeared in front of everyone. He wore a pale golden robe, had a handsome face, and was tall and slender. There was a faint, powerful aura on his body. He was also an outstanding person. As soon as he came in, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. I remember, this is Yi Shukong. He is that Yi Shukong. He is even more dazzling than I thought. Rumor has it that he activated the bloodline of the gods when he was a mortal and forcefully entered the realm of proving Tao. Although he is not famous in the heaven realm, he seems to have made a big name in the outer territory because he followed a great figure of the martial arts sect to cultivate. Amazing, to be able to activate the bloodline of the gods when he was a mortal, unless it was a direct descendant of the gods for a few generations, otherwise it would be very difficult. No wonder his cultivation is so good. But I heard that this Yi Shukong and Yi Shiwen seem to be from the same clan. That Yi clan is really amazing. I've never heard of such a small clan, but they actually produced two peerless geniuses in a row. Their luck really exploded. Someone said secretly. The voice was faint, and it was impossible to find out who said it. Everyone's eyelids twitched. Now that the one-horned clan was looking for Yi Shiwen, someone actually led the topic here. It was obvious that they were hoping for a conflict between the two sides. It seemed that Yi Shiwen had been in the limelight recently, but he had also offended a lot of people. Yi Shukong's expression did not change, but he frowned. He had also heard this. During this time, the rumors about Yi Shiwen were simply clamoring, and he was also one of the main characters of the two recent major events. He never thought that after hundreds of years, he would have the opportunity to meet an old friend of the Yi clan. It was just that he could not find Yi Shiwen. Coming to this gathering, It was not that he did not want to see Yi Shiwen again. However, he did not expect that the topic would be immediately picked on him. Yi Shiwen's clansmen? The one-horned clan immediately looked at Yi Shukong with unfriendly expressions. Although they also understood that someone might be provoking them, it did not matter to them. Since Yi Shukong was one of Yi Shiwen's clansmen, if they could deal with him, it would also be a kind of humiliation to Yi Shiwen. Seeing that everyone from the one-horned clan was looking at him, Yi Shukong suddenly became furious. Did they think he was a soft persimmon? All of a sudden, his aura burst forth. He had been cultivating outside all these years, and his cultivation had already reached an extremely terrifying level. He exuded an aura of might without being angry. The golden light around his body made him look like a golden sun. The experts of the one-horned race also unleashed their auras and stared coldly at Yi Shukong. Their expressions were cold, as if they were looking at a dead man. Everyone was startled. The one-horned race was not to be trifled with. In the outer region, this race was rather famous. There were many deity-level experts in the race, and they were extremely powerful. What do you want? Yi Shukong was not weak at all. The aura belonging to a deity erupted. If it was anywhere else, it would be enough to make the sky fall and the earth crack, and the stars explode. However, this was the 100-bird dynasty Phoenix Palace. Even if a Regis Godfiend expert were to go all out, it would be very difficult to shake the 100-bird dynasty Phoenix Palace. The one-horned clan's members didn't look good. Although Yi Shukong and Yi Shiwen were of the same clan, and it seemed like there was no relationship between them, but in their eyes there was no difference. They had been too embarrassed during this time. Because of Du Tian, their entire clan was looked down upon by many, and they had to vent their anger. At this time, an old deity from the one-horned clan said in a gloomy voice, "Since you and Yi Shiwen are of the same clan, and he does not dare to come out, then you will wash away the humiliation of our clan." At this time, an old deity from the one-horned clan said gloomily, "Some time ago, the matter of Yi Shiwen teaching Du Tian a lesson had caused an uproar, and he had also heard about it. Although it had nothing to do with him, the other party had already come to their door, and backing down was not his style at all. At this time, he no longer had the childishness of the past, and he had the domineering aura of a true deity." "Good, good, good! I think you are really looking for death." The old deity from the one-horned clan instantly attacked, pouncing towards Yi Shukong. His body erupted with countless rays of divine light, transforming into monstrous talismans that contained the essence of the Great Way. This was the clan's powerful secret technique, and it was not something that ordinary people could block. This secret technique turned into a kind of star in the sky, bursting with dazzling and mysterious light, directly striking down. Yi Shukong's face was expressionless, and he did not move. Suddenly, bursts of golden light erupted from his body, and his whole body seemed to be wearing a divine robe. Boom! The huge star fiercely bombarded the divine robe on the surface of Yi Shukong's body. A violent golden light burst out, setting off stormy waves, and constantly exploded with violent rumbling sounds, shocking people's hearts. Everyone was stunned. Wasn't this Yi Shukong a little too powerful? He was actually able to receive the attack of the old deity of the one-horned race without moving an inch. This kind of unwavering appearance was even more terrifying. What kind of might was this? Suddenly, everyone remembered that among the descendants who could awaken the blood of the deities on their own, they were all known as natural deities, and they had powerful powers that ordinary people could not imagine. How is this possible? The old deity from the one-horned clan could not believe it at all, and his eyes widened. His attack with all his strength had actually been blocked by the opponent without even blinking. At this time, Yi Shukong was truly like an ancient deity who had come back to life, invincible in the world. At this time, Yi Shukong finally made his move. His whole arm turned into a sharp sword, and his whole body turned into a sword ray, instantly pouncing towards the old deity from the one-horned clan. Bang! The old deity from the one-horned clan had no time to react at all, and he was directly hit. His whole body was pierced by the sword, and blood instantly sprayed out, and he knelt on the spot. Poochie! Only then did Yi Shukong pull his arm out from the body of the old deity from the one-horned clan, bringing with it a boundless amount of blood. Idiot! Yi Shukong said as he looked coldly at the old deity from the one-horned clan. So powerful! He crippled an expert from the one-horned clan with one sword strike. Is this going against the natural order? What is the background of this Yi family? They actually produce two peerless figures in a row, and they are simply unimaginably powerful. These two people are indeed from the same clan, and they are indeed lawless. This Yi Shiwen has completely disgraced the one-horned clan, and it seems that Yi Shukong will not hesitate to give way. Everyone was very surprised. This Yi Shukong was really very powerful, much more powerful than they had imagined. The first time they had heard of Yi Shukong's name was when he was mentioned together with Ling Tian, and the image of him as a challenger to Ling Tian. But now, as soon as Yi Shukong made his move, everyone knew that they were wrong. Such a figure, even if he did not mention his name to anyone, was enough to become the focus of everyone's attention. The people from the one-horned clan were so angry that their mouths were almost crooked. They had originally wanted to take revenge, and get back at their pride through Yi Shukong, but in the end, Yi Shukong had easily injured an expert from their clan. It was simply a disgrace. Well, stubborn. At that moment, the middle-aged man from the one-horned clan said coldly. He was the leader of the one-horned clan this time, and he could not let things go on like this. With each step he took, his aura continued to rise. It was as if he was the only god in the world. In the end, even the world rumbled. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary rumble. It was like the sound of the Tao. When cultivators heard it, they would receive great benefits. Compared to the old god just now, the middle-aged man from the one-horned clan was not just a little bit more powerful. The aura on his body had even directly climbed past the immortal level, and rushed into the undead level. He was a tyrannical expert of the undead level. Yi Shukong frowned slightly, but he was not afraid. He stood in midair, and the golden light on his body burst out, as if he had put on a divine robe. The golden light was dazzling, and an extremely powerful aura burst out. He was actually infinitely close to the undead level, and he had already touched the threshold of the undead level, but he was still a little short. However, there was no doubt that he was already standing at the peak of the immortal level, and he had a terrifying aura. Kill! However, this time, Yi Shukong did not wait for his opponent to make the first move. Instead, he made the first move because he was a very difficult opponent to deal with. The golden light on his body connected into a string of talismans, and these talismans instantly turned into a monstrous divine sword, slashing down. You? Junior, you're too arrogant. At that moment, the middle-aged man from the one-horned clan raised his hand, and it turned into a huge hand. It expanded with the wind, growing bigger and bigger, and with a thunderous sound, it directly slammed down. Boom! A loud roar was heard, and the middle-aged man directly broke the sword that Yi Shukong had unleashed with all his might. Everyone was shocked that a casual attack from the middle-aged man had actually broken Yi Shukong's sword. His ability had completely taken the upper hand. That was the power of an undead-level expert, and he had the upper hand when facing Yi Shukong, who was at the peak of the immortal level. Yi Shukong frowned, and it seemed that he did not expect the middle-aged man to be so overbearing. However, his face still looked fearless. Don't think that I won't dare to do anything to you just because you've joined the martial sect. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders, and let you know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. A genius who hasn't grown up is just a baby. The middle-aged man said coldly, but he did not dare to shout and kill like he did to Yi Shiwen. He grabbed down with his big hand, and it turned into a star in the sky. It smashed down fiercely, directly attacking Yi Shukong. Yi Shukong let out a long roar, and the aura on his body surged like a stormy sea, slapping the sky. It condensed into a sword formation, and with a clang it slashed towards the big star hand. Chapter 24:16. Everyone in the area retreated. However, the Pavilion of Phoenixes didn't even react. Just the pressure of a Tao artifact was able to suppress all fluctuations. Their attacks were like the tide and seemed extremely terrifying, but most of them had already dissipated not far away from them. Therefore, even the people from the martial sect did not show up. There was no need to do so at all. Did they really think that the Pavilion of the Phoenix was a fragile palace? It was the place where Emperor Xiao Hao used to work, and it was also an extremely powerful Tao artifact. Rumble! A huge explosion sounded. After Yi Shukong's attack was resisted by one side, it could not withstand it in the end and exploded on the spot. Although Yi Shukong's cultivation was infinitely close to that of an imperishable realm expert, he had not truly crossed this boundary after all. There was still a huge gap between their cultivation. "You're courting death," the middle-aged man from the One-Horned clan said coldly. He easily broke through Yi Shukong's attack as if it was nothing at all. His big hand turned into a star and blasted down. The dazzling starlight was eye-catching. Just when he was about to hit Yi Shukong, an astonishing sword chi suddenly burst out from Yi Shukong's body. It swept across the sky and formed a gigantic broken sword behind him. Countless rays of light flashed on the broken sword, like raging flames flowing endlessly. Bang! With a loud bang, the ray of sword light completely destroyed the middle-aged man's attack. The middle-aged man from the One-Horned clan was shocked and quickly withdrew his hand. He was almost injured by the sword chi. He looked at Yi Shukong with surprise and fear in his eyes. The sword chi just now was enough to make him look at Yi Shukong in a new light. However, to everyone's surprise, Yi Shukong did not continue to use the broken sword to attack. Instead, he grabbed another sword chi and attacked the middle-aged man from the One-Horned clan. The middle-aged man immediately became furious. Although he was afraid of the broken sword, it was not Yi Shukong's turn to act presumptuously in front of him. The two of them immediately began fighting again. After the horned middle-aged man had suffered a loss once, how could he be willing to suffer a second time? He also could not use his full strength. On the contrary, Yi Shukong did not have any scruples and attacked with his full strength, intending to compete with the horned middle-aged man. Bang! 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 Their battle was about to reach its climax, especially Yi Shukong, whose battle intent was boiling to an unbelievable level. Although Yi Shukong did not seem to be a match for the single-horned middle-aged man, he did not give in at all and did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Just what is the origin of that broken sword? It can actually injure an existence in the imperishable realm, many people exclaimed in a low voice. They were all deities, and their eyesight was not bad. They could easily see that Yi Shukong was able to not be at a disadvantage, to a large extent, because of that broken sword. Although that broken sword had only been used once, it was enough to give everyone a lesson. Obviously, it was very extraordinary. It was very likely to be an upper-grade divine weapon, or even a supreme-grade divine weapon. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to injure an existence in the imperishable realm with a broken body. Everyone's eyelids twitched. Yi Shukong was really too fierce. Otherwise, he would not be able to force the single-horned middle-aged man to constantly retreat and not dare to fight. The sky was filled with Yi Shukong's golden light, like a round sun. Wherever he went, sunlight would follow. It was very impressive. Although he could not defeat the single-horned middle-aged man with ordinary means, it was already a victory to be able to force an imperishable realm expert to not dare to use his full strength. This was an earth-shattering battle. So strong Yi Shukong is about to break out of his cocoon and become a butterfly. He is about to undergo a further transformation. Someone exclaimed. What is he doing? With that broken sword, he can definitely gain the upper hand. Why isn't he using it? Could it be that the conditions to use this broken sword are very harsh, or the threshold is extremely high? So he can only use it once? Someone could not help but speculate. This was the only way to answer the doubts in their hearts. Otherwise, why did Yi Shukong not make a move? No, it's not that he can't make a move, but he doesn't want to make a move. Not far away, Yi Shiwen opened the Eye of Redemption and had a panoramic view of the battle between the two of them. Nothing could hide from his eyes. He is using the power of this one-horned clan expert to take the last step, to truly break out of his cocoon and become a butterfly, to become an immortal, and achieve the supreme fruit of the imperishable realm. Yi Shiwen said faintly. After not seeing each other for years, Yi Shukong had become stronger, not just a little bit stronger. Yi Shiwen's progress over the years was not slow, but Yi Shukong's progress was also extremely fast. The benefits of having an extremely powerful teacher guiding him day and night were self-evident. However, he was still a breath away from entering the imperishable realm. Now, he was going to use the external force of this one-horned clan expert to force himself into the imperishable realm in one fell swoop. At that time, there would be earth-shattering changes, and everything would be different. This was a very risky way of breaking through. Once it failed, it was very likely that he would die. Because Yi Shiwen had tried it before, he was very clear how difficult this cultivation method was. Both Monk Huizhen and Aoyen were slightly moved. After hearing Yi Shiwen's words, they could also see that this method seemed very risky, but in fact, the success rate was not high. Only Ling Tian's expression did not change, as if he had not seen anything. However, his eyes were constantly flashing with a kind of brilliance, indicating that his current mood was not so calm. Although the one-horned middle-aged man was very strong, he had been very careful, afraid that the broken sword would attack again, so he could not take down Yi Shukong. He was extremely angry in his heart. At first, he did not take Yi Shukong seriously, only treating him as an ordinary martial grandmaster disciple. Although the martial grandmaster was strong, it was not so strong that any random disciple could make them wary. But he was defeated by Yi Shukong. More importantly, the main character had not appeared yet. Yi Shiwen had not appeared yet, but he was forced to this point by Yi Shukong. This was simply a shame. The people around him were pointing fingers at him, making him more and more impatient. And at this moment, suddenly, only a loud roar was heard. Another expert hidden in the one-horned clan directly attacked. It was a young expert who had been hiding and did not make a move. He thought that the one-horned middle-aged man was enough to solve all the problems, but who would have thought that he would be forced into such a difficult situation? This could not go on. Even being pointed at was much better than being mocked like this. The young man thought of this and immediately attacked from the other side. This was another supreme existence of the indestructible realm. Yi Shukong might be able to deal with an indestructible realm being by relying on the deterrence of the broken sword, but when a second indestructible realm being intervened, the situation was immediately reversed. Oh no, it's too late. Too despicable, they are going to join forces and attack. The one-horned clan can only rely on numbers. Many gods also said one after another. Naturally, they were dissatisfied that the young god of the one-horned clan had attacked and interrupted this very exciting battle. However, at this critical moment, an even sharper sword light suddenly burst out with a whoosh and directly slashed in front of the young god, cutting into his body. Blood burst out like a mountain torrent. The arm that was about to attack Yi Shukong was directly chopped off on the spot. The scene was silent. Everyone was shocked. They had just said that the young god was too despicable, but in the end, in just a short period of time, there was a sudden change. The young god's arm was actually chopped off. The young expert of the one-horned clan held his arm and screamed in pain. Golden blood flowed down like golden liquid, extremely dazzling. This was an Eternal Realm expert of the One-Horned clan. In the entire One-Horned clan, he was also considered a very tyrannical figure, almost the top figure. How terrifying was the attack power of such a sword to cut off an arm! What's going on? Did Yi Shukong's broken sword attack again just now? Many people said with some uncertainty. It seemed that they did not see the broken sword attack again just now. A powerful god said, "No, I clearly saw the sword chi attack from the opposite direction just now, which means that it should not be Yi Shukong's attack. It should be someone else. He had the best eyesight just now, so he had captured some things." After being reminded by him, many people also remembered that it did not seem to be from Yi Shukong's direction just now. Who on earth did it? You can focus on your breakthrough, don't worry. At this time, Yi Shukong was also a little puzzled, because only he knew that the sword chi was definitely not from him. Even he did not see when the sword chi attacked. He suddenly became a little worried. One had to know that such a person, who was unknown friend or foe, just now, if that sword was aimed at him, then he was simply finished. However, when he heard that sentence, he suddenly felt that it was very familiar, and then instantly remembered who it was. He was also a little shocked. After not seeing each other for so many years, his skills had become unbelievably profound. Then he muttered, "Have I been seen through?" He took a step forward, and while the other party was still stunned, he rushed forward to attack. In the distance, Yi Shiwen put down his arm. That sword attack just now was made at a critical moment, directly cutting off the young god's arm, preventing Yi Shukong from being attacked from both sides. Chapter 24:17. This is just a small lesson for you. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. What, you want revenge? With just you? Yi Shiwen said coldly. He had attacked in an instant, and no one present had been able to see through it. Who would have thought that he would receive a warning before he could attack? Yes, he had received a warning. He immediately felt that the other party was warning him. Otherwise, even if the other party were to directly attack his head, he would not be able to do anything. All right, since that's the case, our one-horned tribe admits defeat this time. I didn't expect that you would be the one to make a move in the end. We've overestimated our own capabilities. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. We'll meet again in the future, the young deity said fiercely. He seemed to have accepted this unreasonable reality. However, he had no intention of interrupting Yi Shukong's battle. This was a rare opportunity for him to use external forces to break through to the Eternal Realm in one fell swoop. But it was precisely because of this that he was completely enraged. One had to know that he was a dignified Eternal Realm expert. Even if he did not count the clan behind him, just by himself, how many people would dare to look down on him? The strength of the person who could unleash that kind of sword chi was most likely already to a certain extent. So strong. Everyone was dumbfounded and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. They simply could not imagine it. Just now they could all see that the one-horned middle-aged man was about to explode and intended to attack with all his strength, but in the end, he was sent flying by the sword chi of the broken sword. He roared wildly in his heart, already thinking of thousands of possibilities. After all, in such a situation, even the seniors of the martial arts sect did not attack. At this time, who else but Yi Shiwen would have a reason to attack at this time? It was just that he did not expect the one-horned clan to still be brooding over this sword at this time. Could it be that they were not afraid of the revenge of the senior, who had unleashed the sword chi? However, everyone was also very curious about who had unleashed that sword just now. It was just that that sword was too amazing, and they did not dare to look for it, for fear of angering the senior. But now, since the one-horned clan had said so, they naturally wanted to see who this person was. There was an intimidating light in his eyes, and 2 balls of fire were burning in them. He was already angered to the extreme. When he attacked just now, he wanted to end this farce in one fell swoop and redeem the already ruined reputation of the one-horned tribe. His scarlet-yellow gaze swept across the crowd, trying to find the person who had attacked him. Although he didn't dare to act immediately, he definitely had to find out who had injured him. Otherwise, wouldn't it be too ridiculous? However, this was sent by Yi Shiwen. If they continued to fight, they would only lose more face. With the broken sword in their hands, there was no way they could defeat Yi Shukong. However, he quickly adjusted himself and did not take advantage of his victory to pursue. Even if he won, he still needed time to digest the results of this battle. To him, fighting with an imperishable realm expert with all his might was a great harvest. This was not something that ordinary people would have the opportunity to experience. However, he was stopped by the young deity. With great difficulty, the young deity stopped bleeding, then stepped forward and said, "Today, our one-horned tribe admits defeat. However, I wonder which senior knows about that sword just now. Can you show yourself and let us see it?" The crowd was also in an uproar. They were also guessing who had unleashed that sword just now, but they never thought that it would be Yi Shiwen. However, now that they thought about it, it was indeed so. It could only be Yi Shiwen who had unleashed that sword. Originally, the middle-aged man of the one-horned tribe was already afraid of that broken sword of Yi Shukong. Now, he was even more worried about some unexpected disaster. The young deity was incomparable to him, and their strength was similar. However, one of his arms had been crippled by that sword. If it were him, he wouldn't be much better off. If it were anywhere else, that sword would probably have been aimed at the head of the young deity. However, this was the 100 birds facing the Phoenix Pavilion of the martial sect, and there must be a reason why the one-horned tribe did not dare to start a massacre here. How tyrannical was his true strength to be able to severely injure an eternal-level being with just one sword. Moreover, Yi Shukong was even more aggressive. He actually wanted to turn the tables and attack first, which made him even more furious. Immortal level, my ass. Have any of you seen an immortal level being able to beat an eternal level being like a dog? If you say that he is an immortal level being, I don't believe it at all. He must have hidden his strength. Roar. He let out a loud roar, and the power of stars erupted from his body. It was as if there were stars circulating around him, and it was unusually dazzling. This was a warning, an extremely warning. However, as soon as his voice fell, he saw another sword chi directly flying over, instantly cutting his body in half. The upper half of his body was cut in half in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone was dumbfounded. There's no need to look. The person you are looking for is me. Yi Shiwen slowly walked out of the crowd. It's actually Yi Shiwen. How strong is Yi Shiwen? Didn't someone say that he is only an immortal level being? They did not expect this to happen. The one-horned middle-aged man roared and wanted to continue fighting. The injury caused by the broken sword was also recovering rapidly. This sword was not as terrifying as the sword chi that Yi Shiwen had slashed out earlier, which made the eternal level masters unable to quickly expel the sword chi and heal their injuries. Everyone suddenly had doubts about Yi Shiwen's strength. It was probably far more than what he had shown. He and Yi Shukong were like opponents and friends. Seeing that Yi Shukong could improve, he was naturally extremely happy. It was almost as if he relied on this kind of flame to beat the other party repeatedly. Yes, I think so too. Immortal level, that's impossible. However, at this time, he did not dare to argue with Yi Shiwen. He hurriedly led the one-horned clan masters away from the garden as if he was fleeing, away from this monster in human skin. Didn't they say that he has only achieved Tao for hundreds of years? How can he have such strength? It's simply terrifying. Half of the one-horned young god's body rolled to the side, and blood was spurting wildly. However, he did not die. Naturally, an eternal level master would not die so easily. The young god clutched his arm, his face pale and cold sweat dripping from his forehead. Although indestructible realm gods had the terrifying ability to regenerate with just one cell, one could imagine what kind of blow it was for an indestructible realm expert to seriously injure them. It was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. What, it's you? The young god's eyes widened. Naturally, it was impossible for him to not see Yi Shiwen's portrait since he had specially come to look for Yi Shiwen. However, he had never thought that the person who had injured him with a sword earlier was actually his target, Yi Shiwen. After this battle, he clearly felt that the eternal level was really as thin as a cicada's wings. It was as if he could break through at any time. At this critical moment, the broken sword suddenly appeared in Yi Shukong's hand, and he slashed down with lightning speed. Damn it, how dare you make an enemy of our one-horned clan? I will definitely make you die without a burial place. Yi Shiwen's sword was only a warning to the young god so that he couldn't attack unscrupulously. Speaking of which, Yi Shukong was also suffering in his place. It was impossible for him to watch Yi Shukong being attacked from both sides without doing anything. Beside him, whether it was Monk Huizhen, Ao Yen, or Ling Tian, who had a cold expression just now, they all looked at Yi Shiwen in astonishment. It was as if they had never thought that Yi Shiwen could actually have such strength. It was unimaginable. The crowd was in an uproar as they began to discuss the matter. In their eyes, this sword chi must have been unleashed by an elder of the martial arts grandmaster who could not bear to watch. If that was the case, then everything seemed very normal. Suddenly, everyone finally remembered that the leader of the one-horned clan was still in closed-door training. It was said that he was trying to break through the life and death barrier to become a divine master. With the protection of such a powerful leader, they were naturally full of confidence. Just a simple sword chi was enough to severely injure an eternal realm cultivator. How shocking was this technique! However, at this moment, he was stunned by this sword and did not dare to attack casually. That sword was too frightening. If it had been just a little off, it would not have been as simple as just having his entire arm cut off. The one-horned clan's surrender was expected. After all, the battle had already reached this point, and they had lost all face. First, Yi Shiwen had taught Du Tian a lesson. Then, these experts had repeatedly attacked, but they could not take down the middle-aged man from the one-horned clan. There was no way for them to regain their face. It was impossible to find an eternal realm expert at any time, anywhere. This was a rare opportunity. Otherwise, he would not have accepted Yi Shiwen's good intentions. Bang! The sword chi that erupted from the broken sword was like a flame, spreading and burning everything. It instantly slashed the one-horned middle-aged man's body, causing cracks to appear on his body and sending him flying. At this moment, the battle between Yi Shukong and the middle-aged man from the one-horned clan had also entered a white-hot stage. The sword chi that Yi Shukong had grabbed seemed to have turned into a kind of golden flame. It was extremely terrifying. Because everyone was in front, they did not see where this sword chi came from. However, they were right beside Yi Shiwen, so they saw it clearly. However, being forced to this extent by this junior, he felt extremely sullen. Usually, with his status, no one in the clan dared to disobey him. Even outside, no one dared to give him some face. However, today, he had been repeatedly humiliated by Yi Shukong. Moreover, he did not want to embarrass Qin Lai. Yi Shukong's aura was somewhat chaotic. Although he did not use the broken sword, not because he could not, but because he did not want to, it was indeed as everyone had expected. This broken sword could not be used all the time. Otherwise, he would have been able to sweep the eternal realm with just this broken sword alone. The harvest was great. Chapter 24:18. Yes, at this moment, in their eyes, Yi Shiwen had almost become an invincible existence. He could seriously injure an eternal realm master with a single sword strike. Such strength was simply unimaginable to them. At least, there was no one among them who could resist. Instead of continuing, Yi Shiwen might not kill them, but for them it was a kind of humiliation, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. Yi Shukong walked over, then looked at Yi Shiwen and said, "Thank you very much." "You're welcome. You were also targeted because of me. Speaking of which, you can be considered to have blocked a disaster for me," Yi Shiwen said with a wave of his hand. "It's nothing. This time, I also gained a lot," Yi Shukong said. This was not a lie. This time, if he could break through to the Eternal Realm, Yi Shiwen would be the main contributor. "I haven't seen you for a long time. Your skills have become more profound. I knew you wouldn't die. The Abyss Devil Lord won't kill you so easily," Yi Shukong continued. "Our unfinished battle is now the right time." He looked at Yi Shiwen with boundless fighting spirit in his eyes. Even though he had just fought, it did not diminish in the slightest. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said, "You're not my opponent." Yi Shiwen's words were very realistic. Everyone was in an uproar. Everyone had seen how tyrannical the strength that Yi Shukong had displayed just now was. A peak immortal stage fighting against an Eternal Realm Master, and even with that broken sword, he could definitely injure an Eternal Realm Master. Such a situation could not be said to be weak, but Yi Shiwen actually just shook his head. He did not even fight and said that he was not his opponent. Wasn't he a little too arrogant? However, to their surprise, Yi Shukong did not question Yi Shiwen. Instead, he nodded, obviously agreeing with Yi Shiwen's judgment. Because he knew very well that Yi Shiwen had no need to lie to him about this. Yi Shiwen was stronger than him, and it was probably not just a little stronger. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen would not dare to say so. That sword was the best proof, so Yi Shukong did not hesitate because he still did not have the ability to fight with Yi Shiwen. Everyone was secretly surprised in their hearts. How strong is Yi Shiwen? Was he really going to surpass imperishable realm experts? "You're that Yi Shukong?" At this moment, Ling Tian interrupted and said. Yi Shukong raised his eyebrows slightly and silently glanced at Ling Tian. He quickly recognized this person's identity. "That's right, it's me. You're that Ling Tian?" Yi Shukong looked at Ling Tian, his aura unyielding. Everyone's gaze instantly focused on the two of them. One was Ling Tian, and the other was Yi Shukong. This was great. The two male leads of one of the most popular events in the recent period of time were going to face each other. Tit for tat, it was like a collision between Mars and Earth. Ling Tian was known to be a battle maniac, and Yi Shukong had also shown his extraordinary strength in the battle just now. Both of them were not to be trifled with. Because of Qin Shuang the two of them, who were originally strangers, had now become the fiercest competitors. "You want to fight with me over Qin Shuang Ling Tian looked at Yi Shukong and said indifferently. "It's not that I want to fight with you, but she doesn't like you in the first place," Yi Shukong said indifferently. "It's meaningless for you to force it. You should know that whether you like her or not doesn't matter at all." At this moment, Ling Tian said, "This is a matter between the Fallen Angel tribe and the martial sect." Ling Tian's face was indifferent, as if these things had nothing to do with him. For him, there was nothing special to pay attention to other than cultivation and fighting. You don't have to be happy too early. This matter is not a foregone conclusion yet. Yi Shukong was unmoved. He was not discouraged in the slightest. "Ling Tian, go back. I will not marry you." Suddenly, a cold and melodious voice resounded from the sky, and then a beautiful figure appeared before them. It was an extremely beautiful woman. She was wearing a light yellow dress. She was tall and had snow-white skin. Her facial features were exquisite and natural. There was a hint of indifference in her expression. This was Qin Shuang who had countless supporters in the martial sect. Everyone looked at Ling Tian one after another. They did not know if Ling Tian would fly into a rage after being publicly rejected by Qin Shuang. This was an exceptionally shameful matter. Who could endure it? Many people were guessing that Qin Shuang had only mentioned Ling Tian. But she hadn't mentioned a word about Yi Shukong. Could it be that they had fallen in love with each other? It would be somewhat possible if that was the case. After all, Yi Shukong wouldn't suddenly stand up and challenge Ling Tian without any warning. Yi Shiwen's gaze swept between these two people. He had already understood the situation in his heart. Perhaps these two people had been secretly in love with each other for a long time. But they had made it clear now. However, Ling Tian didn't fly into a rage out of shame like everyone had expected. He merely walked over to these two people in a very cold and detached manner and said, "You don't need to tell me about this matter. It doesn't matter whether you like me or not. It also doesn't matter whether I like you or not. After all, we didn't come together because we like each other, right?" Everyone suddenly understood. This was a political marriage. So, did the wishes of both parties matter that much? In fact, this was nothing more than a formality. "I don't care if you can convince your martial sex elders to disagree," Ling Tian indifferently said. "But your chances aren't great. My clan wouldn't have come to propose rashly if I didn't have some assurance." Ling Tian's tone contained a kind of indifference. However, it was true. Perhaps there was nothing truly worthy of his attention. "However, I'll give you a chance. If you can defeat me, I'll tell them about the cancellation of the marriage. There's no need for you to do anything. But, on the contrary, if you can't defeat me, then you'll have to go somewhere else," Ling Tian indifferently said. Yi Shukong also looked at Ling Tian in astonishment. He hadn't expected that Ling Tian would propose such a condition. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Ling Tian wasn't hysterical, nor was he completely hostile. There was only a kind of indifference. It was a kind of indifference that disregarded everything. This matter and Yi Shukong himself weren't important to Ling Tian at all. Seeing that Yi Shukong was about to attack, Ling Tian opened his mouth and said, "You're not my opponent right now. It's useless even if you attack. I'll give you some time to break into the Eternal Realm. After 3 months, we'll have a battle." "All right, after 3 months, I'll come and challenge you," Yi Shukong said. Even with the help of his master, it wouldn't be easy for him to reverse the situation. So, he had to try everything he could. "Ling Tian, even if you win, I won't marry you." Qin Shuang bit her lower lip and said, "What does that have to do with me?" Ling Tian completely ignored Qin Shuang's thoughts. This made Qin Shuang furious. "Since I've already said everything, I won't stay any longer. Sister, let's go," Ling Tian said. He directly pulled Ling Fei and disappeared from the garden. Ling Fei didn't even have time to react before she was taken away by Ling Tian. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that things would turn out like this. After 3 months, the two of them would have a battle. Could it be that Ling Tian had already broken into the Eternal Realm? This matter caused countless people to discuss. After Ling Tian and Ling Fei left, Yi Shukong and Qin Shuang became the focus of everyone's attention. "Congratulations!" Yi Shiwen's face showed a hint of playfulness as he cupped his hands and said. Yi Shukong's originally tense face also showed a rare expression of embarrassment. For him, this was also the first time a young lady had gone to the bridgehead. "You're Yi Shiwen, right? I've always heard Shukong mentioning you. He said that you're a strong opponent. Now it seems that it's true," Qin Shuang said generously without the slightest embarrassment. "I came here not only because of Ling Tian's matter, but also to look for you. The battle between you and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao has been decided after our high-level discussion. It will be held in the 100 Birds paying homage to Phoenix Palace 1 month later," Qin Shuang said. The 100 Birds paying homage to Phoenix Palace was chosen because the strength of both of them was extraordinary. If it was in the heaven realm, the sky would fall and the earth would crack. The sun, moon, and stars would be destroyed. However, it didn't matter in the 100 Birds paying homage to Phoenix Palace. No matter how big the battle between the two of them was, it was impossible to damage the 100 birds paying homage to Phoenix Palace in the slightest. Everyone's ears immediately pricked up. Ever since they came to the conclusion that he was Yi Shiwen, everyone was waiting for when the battle between him and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao would begin. Now that there was finally a confirmed time, many people secretly made up their minds not to let go of this opportunity. They must not miss this battle. I know, I'll come on time 1 month later. Yi Shiwen nodded and said. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Finally, the moment to decide the outcome of the battle had arrived. Everyone, I'm sorry, I'm late. At this time, the host of this gathering, Qin Lai, finally arrived late. Everyone looked at him. Qin Lai had a smile on his face, as if he didn't know what had happened just now. Qin Lai greeted everyone one by one and then walked in front of Yi Shiwen and others. Your real body isn't here? Yi Shiwen suddenly asked this question. He could tell at a glance that Qin Lai didn't come with his real body. However, he didn't say this out loud. Instead, he directly used the voice transmission technique. Ha ha, I really can't hide anything from you. Yes, my real body isn't here at all. Qin Lai shook his head and said, Now my real body is at a critical juncture of closed-door training. It's not in the heaven realm. I'll tell you about this matter after the gathering is over. All right. Yi Shiwen was also a little puzzled. He didn't know what Qin Lai wanted to say. Chapter 24:19. The clash between the two sides at the gathering quickly spread through the mouths of the gods. At the same time, a name rose like a comet, and that was Yi Shukong. Yi Shukong, who originally appeared as Ling Tian's challenger, suddenly became even more prominent. In many people's eyes, he was infinitely close to the eternal stage and was almost invincible in the world. Even Ling Tian was willing to give him this opportunity to challenge Yi Shukong. 3 months later, there would be an earth-shattering battle. Whether Yi Shukong could break through or not, the mysterious broken sword alone would have unimaginable power for ordinary people. In the eyes of many veteran powerhouses, Yi Shiwen was even more terrifying than Yi Shukong. Even with Yi Shukong's strength, he only received a "you're no match for me" comment in front of Yi Shiwen. With Yi Shukong's pride, it was a miracle that he could swallow his anger and agree with this statement. It also proved that Yi Shiwen's strength had reached an incredible level. Although he seemed to be at the peak of immortal level on the surface, no one would believe that he was only at the peak of immortal level. No one knew how much strength he had hidden. This gathering had made Yi Shiwen, Yi Shukong, and Ling Tian's reputation soar to the skies. Many people were looking forward to the battle in 1 month and 3 months' time. Perhaps it would really be an earth-shattering battle. As the news spread throughout Martial City at an astonishing speed, the few people involved, under Qin Lai's invitation, entered a private room in the 100 birds facing the Phoenix Pavilion. In addition to Yi Shiwen and Qin Lai, Yi Shukong, Monk Huizhen, Ao Yen, and Qin Shuang were all present. It could be said that the most eye-catching group of young Dao confirmers were all here. As the host, Qin Lai sat in the main seat. Although it was only a clone, no one would underestimate him. It's rare for us to have the opportunity to meet again today. Come, let me toast first. Qin Lai said as he raised his glass. After drinking a glass of holy wine, he then continued, Yi Shukong, I've heard of your name a long time ago, but this is the first time we've met. I didn't expect you to take away our Qin family's goddess on our first meeting. Tell me, what crime do you deserve? Qin Lai chuckled and looked at Yi Shukong with a mocking expression. Yi Shukong's face was also a little red. If it was his own matter, even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, it would be difficult for his expression to change. However, when it involved Qin Shuang he could not remain calm. Qin Lai, are you bullying our Yi family? At this time, Yi Shiwen came out to smooth things over. It won't be so easy to bully the people of our Yi family. Ha ha, who dares to bully your Yi family? Actually, I want to see where your Yi family buried your ancestors' graves. Is it buried in the dragon vein? How did you two come out? Tsk. Qinlai said with a sigh. This was not a derogatory term, but a genuine sigh. It was impossible for an ordinary family to produce any outstanding talents without a solid foundation. Even if they were lucky enough to have a fortuitous encounter and become a peerless hero, it was already very difficult. However, the Yi clan had produced two in a row. From their point of view, this was already very difficult. The common saying was that the ancestors' graves were emitting green smoke. Enough, you two, Qin Shuang said reproachfully. How could she not see that these two people were teaming up to tease them? Ha 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 ha. Everyone in the room laughed loudly. Qinlai, when you said that you wanted to hold this party, Tyrant and I thought that your corpse had come back to life. Weren't you always in the ancestral land? Why did you suddenly come out? Aoyan said. What do you mean by coming back to life? Do you have to make it sound so bad? Didn't I keep asking you whether you want to go to the ancestral land with me? Qinlai said. You said that you have something to tell me. Is it about this matter? Yi Shiwen asked. Yes. Qinlai nodded and said, I think you don't know much about the ancestral land of my clan. After all, although the Hidden Valley is big, it is not a sect of my human clan. Yi Shiwen shook his head, indicating that he knew nothing. Not to mention Yi Shiwen, even Yi Shukong did not know what the so-called ancestral land was. This is it. The ancestral land is the core of our human clan. It stabilizes the destiny of our human clan. There are many ancient clans living in it. It is far more than what you can see in the heaven realm. Qinlai said, whether it is the demon clan or the demon clan, all the clans in the world have such an ancestral land. It is the foundation of a clan and also the last means for a clan to maintain its inheritance. At the same time, it is also the birthplace of our human clan. However, most people do not know about the existence of the ancestral land. Only the most core talents of the human clan have the chance to come into contact with the ancestral land. Needless to say, Yi Shiwen, he has become a disciple of our martial sect. It should not take long for him to have the opportunity to come into contact with the ancestral land. The only troublesome person is you, Yi Shiwen. Not all human gods can come into contact with the existence of the ancestral land because it is a top secret. Once the secret is leaked, it will cause great trouble. Originally, you were not qualified to enter, but Senior Beggar God personally vouched for you. Yi Shiwen was slightly moved. Although he still did not know what the situation in the ancestral land was like, it must be something important. Now that the beggar god was willing to vouch for a person who had nothing to do with him, he felt a warm current flowing through his heart. Qinlai glanced at him and said, the others already know the situation in the ancestors' land. Huizhen is also a member of the human tribe. Although Aoyan is a member of the dragon tribe, he is actually a protector of the martial arts sect. He has a close relationship with the martial arts sect and has long been inseparable. He can also be regarded as one of us. Many seniors of the Fire Dragon Palace are also cultivating in the ancestors' land. Yi Shiwen nodded. He had also heard that these three sects had a very deep relationship with each other. Even the disciples of the Qin family had joined the Western Heaven. Now they were even the Buddhas of the Western Heaven. More than half of their disciples were the descendants of many big shots of the martial sect. In the Fire Dragon Palace, there were also many seniors who married female disciples of the martial sect. There were also countless female disciples of the Fire Dragon Palace who had married female disciples of the martial sect or had joined the martial sect. Apart from the different sects, they could almost be seen as the existence of a trinity. The ancestral land of the human clan is the place where the first ancestor of the human clan came from. It is also the last foundation of the human clan. To this day, many ancient clans and powerful existences still exist in it. Most importantly, It is said that the secret of the sovereign emperor of the human clan is buried in it. According to the records, the ancestor of our martial sect, Emperor Qin, had obtained the secret of the sovereign emperor and finally ascended to heaven. Qin Lai's words immediately made Yi Shiwen and Yi Shukong's eyes lit up. For ordinary people, cultivating to the Tao was already the greatest hope of their life. However, for the two of them, having already proven the Tao, becoming an emperor was the greatest hope. Countless gods had been mediocre for their whole lives and had never been able to achieve the Tao. In the end, they had died in meditation and died. Now that they heard that the secret of the sovereign emperor of the human clan was in the ancestral land, the two of them suddenly became even more excited. Especially you, Yi Shiwen. I heard that you are going to participate in the marriage contest in the ancient Phoenix realm. I also heard about it. However, with your current strength, although you are not weak, there is no way you can defeat Ao Chaozong. Qin Lai said very straightforwardly. Yi Shiwen frowned slightly, and his expression was tense. He was very clear that Qin Lai was not talking nonsense. From the news he had heard about Ao Chaozong, it was said that he was a divine master who was infinitely close to the sage realm. It's impossible for you to advance any further in a short period of time. With your situation, it's already extremely fast for you to step into the imperishable realm in a few hundred years. But do you still have a few hundred years to wait? Qin Lai said with confidence. Is there a way to do it in the ancestral land? Yi Shiwen asked. He had been troubled by this matter recently. He was now infinitely close to the imperishable realm, and was even closer than Yi Shukong was. However, if he were to break through normally, it would be difficult for him to take another step forward and truly enter the imperishable realm even after a long time. Even if he were to enter the imperishable realm, he would only be able to close the gap between him and Ao Chaozong, but it did not mean that he would be able to fight Ao Chaozong. As time passed day by day, he began to feel anxious. Normal methods will not work, but there is a way now. There is a divine tree in the ancestral land that Swirenshi of the human clan used to drill wood to make fire. Every 10,000 years, it will bear a heaven fire fruit. Back then, Swirenshi of the human clan was enlightened under the tree and comprehended supreme martial arts. Qin Lai said, not only does the heaven fire fruit contain powerful energy that can cleanse the meridians and marrow of the divine shell, but more importantly, it contains information about the supreme great Tao that can help one achieve enlightenment. It is said that Swirenshi obtained all the heaven fire fruit and achieved enlightenment. He became the first human to achieve the supreme great Tao in one fell swoop. Your foundation is solid, so it is difficult for you to break through. The heaven fire fruit may be able to help you reach the eternal realm in a single step. Yi Shukong, the same is true for you. If you want to fight Ling Tian in 3 months, you must use this method. Yi Shiwen was quite tempted. If there was a way to improve further in a short period of time, then this was the only possibility. No matter what the probability of him breaking through was, this was indeed a way. Yi Shukong was also very excited. Although today's battle had brought him closer to the eternal realm, to break through to the eternal realm in just 3 months was undoubtedly a huge problem. He had no other choice. Qin Lai, you are telling us all this information. I'm afraid it is not as simple as informing us. Yi Shiwen said. Chapter 24:20. You mean, there are others who are also coveting the Sui fire essence? Yi Shiwen immediately guessed his thoughts. Yi Shiwen was secretly shocked. This Sui Mu must be an extraordinary existence. Swirenshi was a powerful existence in the ancient times. According to the ancient legends, he was the first human sovereign in the barbarian era before the emergence of the human sovereign. He was the supreme existence who led the human race out of the barbarian era and out of the ancestral land. His strength was unprecedented. Even now, countless powerhouses still had to look up to him. However, that era was just too long ago. It was so long ago that even the legendary 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors hadn't been born yet. Deities were known as immortals. However, many of them had unexpectedly fallen due to various reasons. No one knew if there were any deities who survived from that era. Those legendary powerhouses were just legends among legends now. However, Sui Mu had actually survived from that era. Even if it was a pig, after living for so long, it would be enough to become a world-shaking existence, let alone a divine tree. Right now, it was an existence that was completely unimaginable. That's right. The Sui fire essence has always been rare. It's hidden in the Sui wood. There's no way to get it. Only when the heavenly fire fruit ripens once every 10,000 years can it come out from the Sui wood. Only then will we have the chance to get the Sui fire essence. Qinlai said, in history, there was a senior in our Qin clan who had obtained the Sui fire essence. He then cultivated a supreme magical power and became invincible in the world. I have learned this magical power, but I need the Sui fire essence to succeed. Yi Shiwen, Yi Shukong, and the others were moved. What kind of power a person cultivated was a secret that could save his life at a critical moment. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, ordinary people would never reveal their power. Qinlai's words showed that he had great trust in them. How could they not be moved? However, there are many ancient clans living in the ancestral land. There should be a lot of powerhouses there. If there are divine lords or even more powerful masters intervening, I'm afraid we won't be of any help even if we go. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said. He was thinking more. As the ancestral land of a clan, it shouldered the heavy responsibility of the final inheritance. How could there be no powerhouses in it? You don't have to worry about that. The seniors of our martial sect have made an agreement with the powerful existences of the ancient clans that there will be no more powerful people participating in the competition. It will be a direct competition between the strong and upright people of both sides. It is also a kind of training, Qinlai said, and the real trouble is the peerless geniuses of the ancient clans. They might not leave the ancestral land for the rest of their lives, but they are still as powerful as the others. Among them, there are quite a few troublesome opponents. I hope that everyone can help me fend off these people while I am collecting the fire essence, Qinlai said. No problem, in any case we will help you, Yi Shiwen immediately said. Yi Shukong only nodded and agreed. The rest of them also agreed to it. That's great. I believe that our lineup is definitely the strongest. If my golden body is successful in the future, if there's anything you need, just let me know, Qinlai said. Don't worry, I won't be polite when it's time to order you around, Aoyin laughed and said. There's wine and meat, everything is negotiable, Monk Huizhen laughed and said. Both of them grew up with Qinlai, so their relationship was needless to say. Qin Shuang was the pride of the Qin clan. Although the two of them were in a competitive position and were both the most powerful geniuses of the Qin clan, the relationship between the two of them was not as bad as the outside world thought. On the contrary, they were quite close, and Yi Shukong and Yi Shiwen wanted to fight with all their strength. When are we leaving? Yi Shiwen asked. He was already a little impatient. Don't worry, my body is still in closed-door training in the ancestral land. Yi Shiwen, you still have a battle with Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. We will leave after that, don't worry, Qinlai said. After the matter was settled, everyone's mood was much more relaxed. After a few rounds of toasting, the banquet quickly ended. Everyone walked out of the private room and out of the Phoenix Pavilion of 100 Birds. Suddenly, in the sky, a fiery red figure came over with fiery light. Everyone focused and saw that it was a tall tiger about 5 to 6 meters tall. Its entire body was fiery red, as if it was burning with flames. This fierce tiger flew in front of everyone and then turned into the appearance of a middle-aged man in full view of everyone. He was tall and had a somewhat ferocious look on his face. This was another incomparably powerful demon god, a foreign race powerhouse, but in this martial capital, he did not have the slightest scruples and was very presumptuous. Yi Shiwen immediately felt that this demon god had directly locked his divine thoughts on him. It was very unfriendly, and he immediately realized that it was probably coming for him. "Get lost," Yi Shiwen said coldly. He was not polite and instantly broke the demon god's divine thought. Many divine thoughts in the surroundings also swept over. Many people had noticed the situation here and looked over one after another. They saw that Yi Shiwen faced a powerhouse of the eternal realm and only replied with a single word. How domineering was this? Although the matter of the gathering in the garden had spread and many people already knew about Yi Shiwen, when they really saw that he dared to face a powerhouse of the eternal realm and tell him to get lost, everyone was still surprised. And that demon god was furious. No matter what, he was a powerhouse of the eternal realm, and the person opposite him was only in the eternal realm. Although they were both gods, the difference between the eternal realm and the eternal realm was simply like heaven and earth. A powerhouse of the eternal realm was enough to suppress a group of eternal realm god. This was the difference. The fierce tiger demon god narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Shiwen with murderous intent and said coldly, "Junior, you are too arrogant. You appeared in front of me first, and dared to lock your divine sense on me. This is a provocation to a deity. Tell me, are you being too ostentatious?" Yi Shiwen said indifferently. He didn't seem to care at all. Many gods came to a realization. Gods naturally had the bearing and dignity of gods. Locking one's divine thoughts on the other party was a very serious provocation. You really have a sharp tongue, but it is useless. The fierce tiger demon god could not help but sneer. "Hiss, I remember now. Isn't that venerable Hu Lin? How did he appear here? Didn't they say that he was fighting in the god burial star ocean? How did he suddenly appear here? If it is him, then there is nothing strange about it. You know, he is a very famous pursuer of Venerable Yuan Miao. He has been pursuing Venerable Yuan Miao for tens of thousands of years. He only gave up when Venerable Yuan Miao got married. I didn't expect him to appear again now." Everyone came to a realization and knew the origin of this Venerable Hu Lin. In the past, Venerable Yuan Miao was also a famous beauty in many worlds. She had many pursuers. Her limelight was not inferior to the current Qin Shuang heir. However, she was later chased away, got married and had children. Hence, her limelight gradually weakened. Qin Shuang heir and the others caught up later, but it did not mean that she had no pursuers. Yi Shiwen only understood why this Venerable Hu Lin looked for him after hearing everyone's words. It was really related to Venerable Yuan Miao. "So, you are here for Venerable Yuan Miao. I think you should be very clear about the whole story. Are you sure you want to get involved in this mess?" Yi Shiwen said coldly. "Humph, the whole story has nothing to do with me. However, if you want to find trouble with Venerable Yuan Miao, then you have to go through me first. I want to see who you are. How dare you be so arrogant?" Venerable Hu Lin said coldly. The whole story was meaningless to him. Someone is going to be unlucky. Ha! Ao Yen looked like he was watching a good show. He had no intention of stepping forward to help. That's right. This unlucky fellow must have just arrived in the heaven realm. If he had heard a little more news, he wouldn't have come so anxiously to court death. Monk Huijin's mouth also said with a venomous tongue. Yi Shukong simply held Qin Shuang heir's slender waist and stood next to her. He also looked like he was watching a good show. Yi Shiwen did not make a move in front of him. However, just that sword was enough to let him know that Yi Shiwen was definitely not a pushover. If Yi Shiwen wanted to bully him, it would depend on whether his teeth were good or not. Ha ha, good. What a good reversal of black and white. Now, it is me who went to find trouble with him. Since you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. Yi Shiwen said coldly with his eyes squinted. What an arrogant kid. Venerable Hu Lin roared. The tiger's roar shook all directions and turned into a terrifying sound wave that spread out. Then, his big hand directly fell toward Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's face was a little annoyed. He directly made a move. He also slapped his palm directly and collided with the big hand that was grabbing down. Bang! With a loud bang, everyone only saw the two palms collide, and then blood splattered everywhere. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and bone fragments flew everywhere. The huge hand that the Venerable of Tiger Forest grabbed down instantly exploded on the spot, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Venerable Hu Lin screamed. His entire palm turned into a blood mist and was directly blasted away. Chapter 24-21. Everyone was shocked. A powerful undead stage expert charged over, but in the end, one of his palms was shattered by Yi Shiwen's palm. What an astonishing technique! Hiss, I've only heard that he cut off the arm of an undead stage expert with a single sword strike. I thought it was just a rumor, but now that I've seen it for myself, I feel a chill run down my spine. So strong, where is his true strength? Everyone was boiling with excitement. Under such strength, they all felt shocked. This is the 100 Birds looking at the Phoenix Pavilion. I don't want to start a massacre. I'll give you one more chance. If you don't want to die, then scram. Yi Shiwen was extremely restrained, not only because this was the martial sect's territory, but also because he respected the Qin Emperor. Roar! The powerful demon Immortal immediately transformed into his original form. His body was as huge as a small mountain. His forearm was broken, but with the help of his divine power, it was slowly recovering. His eyes were bursting with a frightening murderous aura. When the demon god returned to his true body, it meant that he was going to fight with his life on the line. In his true body state, he was much more tyrannical than in his human form. Roar! Another loud roar resounded. Countless terrifying roars instantly transformed into a matrix in the sky, and rushed towards Yi Shiwen to suppress him. A powerful force exploded out. Everyone was shocked. This was the authentic tiger roar divine ability. When the god of the eternal habitat heard the figure, he felt dizzy, making him feel as if his head was about to split open. Stubborn, it seems like you really should die. Yi Shiwen took a step forward, and a boundless multicolored light burst out from his body. It was dazzling and glaring, as if a powerful impact had burst out. This boundless multicolored light directly shattered the suppressive array. Venerable Hu Lin spat out a mouthful of blood. Golden blood filled the sky, reflecting a dazzling light under the sunlight. With his divine ability broken, he was immediately injured by Yi Shiwen. He took a few steps back, distancing himself from the range of the multicolored light. Countless people were stunned. Just by relying on his aura, he had forced back an imperishable realm expert and heavily injured him. Venerable Hu Lin felt his chest tighten, and he felt dizzy. His eyes widened in disbelief. He hadn't even made a move, and he was already injured by his opponent's aura. How could this person be so strong? When he received the news, he only knew that this person had just proven his Tao. Although it was news from 20 years ago, to a god's cultivation level, there was no difference between 20 years ago and 2 days ago. Even if he had improved and broken through to intermediate stage immortal level, so what? He did not even care about advanced stage immortal level. The difference between the immortal level and the indestructible level was too great. Who would have thought that it would be completely different from what he had expected? His entire body was as cold as ice. At this moment, he had calmed down a little and seemed to have understood something, but it was too late. After that, Yi Shiwen took a step forward and disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already on the body of the undead realm demon god. Bang! He raised his hand and punched down. There was a loud roar, and the tiger demon deity screamed and tumbled in the sky. Yi Shiwen's fist was so monstrous that it could cut down the sun, the moon, and the stars. Although the tiger demon deity's body was very strong, it was useless at this time. Roar! Terrifying roars kept coming. The tiger demon god kept struggling, trying to throw Yi Shiwen down. However, Yi Shiwen seemed to be glued to it, and it could not be shaken off at all. Wind attribute rules constantly erupted from its body, forming countless blades that rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Every pore on its body was surging with a terrifying energy. However, this kind of power was useless in front of Yi Shiwen. It was completely suppressed. All the attacks that hit its body could only be heard clanking sound. Then, all these wind blades turned into nothingness. Bang! Yi Shiwen raised his hand and punched down again. The tiger demon god screamed in pain. It felt that its vision had turned black, and it was almost beaten to death. There were cracks on its skull, and it looked extremely terrifying. Bang! 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 Everyone could only hear the continuous sounds of collisions in the sky. That terrifying power spread out, making people feel terrified. At this moment, Yi Shiwen was like a legendary tiger fighting hero. He was riding on the tiger demon god's neck and constantly hitting its head. Every time, blood splattered everywhere. If it wasn't for the fact that he was an eternal realm expert and could easily regenerate his physical body, he would have been beaten to death by now. What a ferocious figure! Someone said while looking at this scene, dumbfounded. Incredible, incredible! Even an undead realm expert is being beaten like a dead dog. I'm afraid Senior Immortal Yuan Miao won't be able to get away with being the enemy of such a figure. In the end, the tiger demon deity was already screaming in agony. He could only keep begging for mercy. He just wanted to show off in front of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao and win the beauty's heart. He didn't really want to fight Yi Shiwen to the death. If this continued, he felt that he would be beaten to death. Yi Shiwen snorted coldly and then directly placed a restriction on the tiger demon god's body. At that time, as long as he thought about it, the tiger demon god's life and death would be under his control. Although the tiger demon god was very unwilling, there was no other way. Its life and death were in Yi Shiwen's hands. If Yi Shiwen really wanted to deal with it, it would be easy and not difficult at all. In the end, Yi Shiwen did not kill the tiger demon god. Instead, he subdued it into an auspicious beast to protect the mountain. For him, although he did not kill it, the purpose of establishing his prestige had been achieved. He believed that within a month, there would be no more blind guys looking for trouble with him. Even if he really wanted to help Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, he had to consider whether he had the ability to do so. A powerful undead realm beast demon god was defeated by Yi Shiwen. He did not get the limelight, and on the contrary, he became someone else's prisoner. And Yi Shiwen's goal had indeed been achieved. All the gods who had seen how Yi Shiwen had brutally subdued a powerful demon god felt a chill run down their spines. Even the powerful undead realm experts who had originally looked down on Yi Shiwen and were eager to try had suddenly calmed down at this time. Venerable Tiger Forest was not weak. On the contrary, he was very tyrannical, but now he ended up like this. It was not that he was too weak, but Yi Shiwen was too abnormal. This news spread quickly, and many people's awe of Yi Shiwen increased by a level. Subduing a beast demon god as an auspicious beast to protect the mountain was not an ordinary act. With this lesson, Yi Shiwen really had a lot of peace. No one dared to trouble Yi Shiwen anymore. Yi Shiwen lived in the Phoenix Pavilion of 100 Birds. Qin Lai helped him get a room at the internal price. He was also happy to cultivate here. He could also feel the Emperor's Tao at a close distance. That kind of unfathomable, obscure, and difficult heaven's Tao law was manifested in front of him. Even if he could only study a small part of it, it made his cultivation feel like it had gone further. Cultivating here was really twice the result with half the effort. However, he did not retreat, but just a kind of quiet cultivation, A simple kind of cultivation, adjusting his mentality and preparing for the final battle. 3 days later, the arrival of a person interrupted Yi Shiwen's quiet cultivation. This person was none other than Gao Qingye. Previously, Yi Shiwen left Gao Qingye behind. He re-established the pilgrimage palace and accepted disciples again. In 20 years, it had developed to a preliminary scale. In a short period of time, it was difficult for the cultivation to develop by leaps and bounds. However, the framework of the pilgrimage palace had been set up, and all kinds of personnel were ready. The only thing left was to wait for the disciples to slowly grow up and slowly develop into a powerful immortal inheritance. Because of Qin Lai's secret care, although there was an old grudge with Venerable Yuan Miao, he did not suffer any difficulties. Even Qin Lai had sent some cultivation materials over the years, which were very precious even for demigods. Therefore, in just a short period of 20 years, the pilgrimage palace had more than 1,000 disciples. In addition to the first-generation disciples, there were already many second-generation disciples. These days, Gao Qingye finally got the news that his master had returned to the heaven realm and was going to fight with Venerable Yuan Miao. How could he not know that it must be because of his matter? He quickly put down everything and came to visit. Disciple Gao Qingye greets master. Gao Qingye bowed and said, Disciple is unfilial, I have troubled master. Get up. Yi Shiwen made a gesture, and Gao Qingye was lifted up by a force. It's nothing. Since I am your master, I naturally have to consider more for you. Besides, the battle between me and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao is not entirely for your sake. You don't have to worry about it. Yi Shiwen glanced at Gao Qingye. Gao Qingye had become younger these years. At this time, he looked like a young man of 28 or 29 years old. However, he shook his head and said, These years, most of your energy has been on the development of the sect. Although your cultivation has improved, you still have a long way to go if you want to prove your Tao. Yi Shiwen saw through Gao Qingye at a glance. Although Gao Qingye was already at demigod peak, his progress was not too fast compared to when he left. When he left, he had already passed down all the cultivation methods, and he had also left behind a lot of wealth and divine materials. He himself had a rather high aptitude, but in the past 20 years, his cultivation progress had been very slow. There was only one possibility, and that was that the matters of the sect had slowed his pace of cultivation. Master, you are right. Gao Qingye felt a little guilty. Although Yi Shiwen did not have the immortal inheritance, the various conditions prepared for him were not bad, but he still could not prove his Tao. He felt a little guilty to Yi Shiwen. Chapter 24-22. Although it is important to develop the sect, in the end, this sect still depends on you. The stronger you are, the more this sect can develop. Don't put the cart before the horse. Yi Shiwen warned. Gao Qingye nodded. When he was in the mortal world, he understood that he was able to make such a big foundation in the mortal world. To a large extent, it was because he was the top powerhouse in the world. It was just that nowadays there were countless powerhouses in the heaven realm. Tao validation powerhouses were considered to have entered the top ranks, but they were not invincible. Take this tiger back. In the future, it will be an auspicious beast to guard the mountain. This is an undead realm demon immortal. I think it can handle ordinary troubles. Yi Shiwen turned his palm, and a small tiger appeared in his hand. It was Venerable Hu Lin who was shrunk by his law manifestation magical power. Gao Qingye was shocked in his heart. Although it was just a small demon god, it had a shocking evil aura spreading out. He wondered what kind of ferocious demon god it was. But now, it was captured by his master and was actually given to him to guard his house. Thank you, master. Gao Qingye's face slowly changed into gratitude. Although Qin Lai had instructed him to take care of it, it was not Tao validation. After all, there were still many inconveniences. It was not comparable to him who had a real undead realm master. Although Yi Shiwen had reached Dao validation, he was not in the heaven realm all year round. He couldn't provide enough support at all. Venerable Hu Lin was obviously unwilling, but there was no way to resist. His life and death were in the hands of Yi Shiwen, and there was no room for objection. I will pass on the imprint that controls him to you now. In the future, with his protection, I think ordinary people will not dare to spy on the pilgrimage palace. Yi Shiwen said. He split out an imprint and put it into Gao Qingye's mind. The two talked for a while. Yi Shiwen also answered some of Gao Qingye's doubts about cultivation, and then Gao Qingye retreated. Yi Shiwen once again entered into a state of meditation. No one disturbed him. Soon a month passed by. The battle between Yi Shiwen and Venerable Yuan Miao finally began. Under such circumstances, many people's clamor floated above the dust in this month. Some were optimistic about Yi Shiwen, and some were optimistic about Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. Each expressed their own opinions as if they had their own ideas. However, when the day finally arrived, there was silence all of a sudden. It was as if the world had evaporated. That was because everyone knew that the battle was about to begin. It was meaningless to say whether they were optimistic or pessimistic at this moment. He was powerless to change anything. On this day, the 100 birds paying homage to the Phoenix Palace was rarely open to the public. Although it was just a small world where the duel took place, it was a rare experience for the vast majority of ordinary people. It was a dense mass of people. It was a rare sight to see not only humans, but other races as well. Although the heaven realm was dominated by the human race, it wasn't just the human race. There were experts from various races, not to mention the supreme existences of the foreign domain. Oh my God, that's the previous patriarch of the sea race. I didn't expect him to appear here. Even he was alarmed by this battle? What's so strange about that? There are still many powerful figures with real power over there. There are also many foreign domain experts that I've never heard of or seen before. The arrival of so many experts was enough to shock all the people who planned to watch the show. On the contrary, the martial sect's own experts seemed to have disappeared without a trace. It seemed that they were trying to avoid arousing suspicion, so they rarely showed up. After all, this matter was traced to the root of the matter. For a colossus like the martial sect, it was also a difficult thing to talk about. In particular, the martial sect had always prided itself as the authentic human race. They were indeed speechless when such a thing happened. If it weren't for the Yuan family's old ancestor being too strong, there wouldn't even be this battle. Today's battle was destined to be recorded in history and remembered by countless people. Whether it was Senior Immortal Yuan Miao or Yi Shiwen who had caused an uproar during this period of time, they couldn't be insulted lightly. The martial sect specially opened a transmission array to teleport to a small world in the 100 birds toward the Phoenix Palace. However, this transmission array also had a basic requirement. That was, one must be at least a demigod to be qualified to enter and watch the battle. This naturally caused many warriors who were not at the demigod realm to be dissatisfied. However, the martial sect only used a sentence to shut their mouths, afraid that the aftermath of the battle would kill them. All of a sudden, they were speechless. There was naturally no need to mention the horror of deity experts, let alone the top experts among them. They might really be killed by the aftermath. Although they were unwilling, they had no way to refute it. When everyone really entered, they were slightly shocked. This was a very vast small world, at least 1,000,000 kilometers in size. However, this could only be regarded as an ordinary small world. There were countless strange mountains and strange plants, and it had been opened up into a battlefield. The density of the spiritual energy was several times stronger than the outside world. It was clearly a blessed land for cultivation, but now it had been opened up into a battlefield. The martial sect was really rich and overbearing. They had a heritage and foundation that others simply couldn't imagine. Everyone waited for a while, but they saw a figure descend from the sky. "Venerable Yuan Miao is here," someone exclaimed. However, at this time, Venerable Yuan Miao's face was ice-cold. Her eyes were deathly gray, like an endless abyss that devoured everything, including light and hope. She walked over step by step with a boundless aura, as if she was possessed by an ancient goddess. Compared to a few decades ago, it was unknown how much stronger she was. Some powerhouses, including the powerhouses among the deities, were shocked. There was a terrifying power being born and destroyed in her body, especially the vigorous blood and qi surging under her skin, exploding like thunder. Beside her, there was a group of powerhouses of various races. These powerhouses had all kinds of appearances. Some were in human form, while others simply maintained their original forms. Each and every one of them exuded a terrifying aura. Some people recognized the identity of these people. They were all supreme existences that had shaken the world tens of thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, they had already dominated a region. However, they all had one thing in common, and that was that they were all pursuers of Venerable Yuan Miao back then. Now that they heard the news, it was obvious that they had all come to support Venerable Yuan Miao. Many people sighed with emotion. Venerable Yuan Miao seemed to be low-key, but she hid such a huge circle of connections. It was unimaginable. Everyone was already looking forward to how this battle would develop. Venerable Yuan Miao had already arrived, so what about Yi Shiwen? When would he appear? As time passed, people began to get restless, but at this time, no one doubted whether Yi Shiwen dared to come or not. He had already appeared in martial capital, so naturally, it was impossible that he did not dare to come. So what was he doing at this time? Just as everyone was waiting, Yi Shiwen leisurely walked through the streets and entered the teleportation array. It was as if he was on a vacation, without the slightest nervousness. When everyone began to get a little irritated, Yi Shiwen finally appeared in front of everyone. Everyone made way for him, not daring to block his pace. Yi Shiwen slowly walked into the battlefield. He just glanced at Venerable Yuan Miao's seemingly huge support group, and then said, "Why, do you all plan to come together? There's no need for all of you to come together. I can kill you alone." Venerable Yuan Miao's voice was extremely cold, as if she had crawled out of hell. In the past 2 decades, no one knew what she had experienced to become like this. She was almost lifeless. She just stood there with her clothes fluttering in the wind. There was a strange light flickering in her eyes. Everyone's heart tightened. They all knew that the real decisive battle was about to begin. They had been waiting for so many days for this moment. Many people even came from the outer territory in person for this battle. Actually, it doesn't matter to me. If you all want to come together, then come together, Yi Shiwen said faintly. There was unusual confidence in his words. Arrogant! A white tiger roared ferociously. Previously, Yi Shiwen had subdued Venerable Hu Lin. Although Venerable Hu Lin was not his friend, he was also a deity powerhouse of the Tiger Demon clan. He felt that his dignity had been trampled. Today's matter is about to come to an end. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant. Yi Shiwen glanced at him and was too lazy to care. His eyes were full of contempt, as if he really did not mind them coming together. It made no difference to him at all. This kind of gaze made this white tiger and many other powerhouses even more furious. Their faces were ashen and very angry. If it wasn't that Venerable Yuan Miao had to fight with Yi Shiwen today to get rid of her inner demon, they all had the idea of rushing up and tearing this hateful guy into pieces. They dominated a region and were famous for many years. Even when they came to martial capital, no one dared to look down on them. Now, they were completely despised by Yi Shiwen. How could they accept this? Everyone, go back. I can stay here alone. Venerable Yuan Miao said emotionlessly and without any anger. Seeing this scene, many powerhouses felt even more distressed. Even after many years, the love in their hearts had not diminished in the slightest. Seeing venerable immortal Yuan Miao, who was so beautiful in the past, became like this, they looked at Yi Shiwen with even more resentment. However, they did not want to disobey venerable Yuan Miao's words, so they retreated one after another. You still came. Today, I will kill you and get rid of my inner demon. Venerable Yuan Miao said faintly as if he was looking at a dead person. Kill me? You think too much. Yi Shiwen sneered and did not take it to heart. Venerable Yuan Miao did not say much. He just took a step forward and charged at Yi Shiwen. Boom! Suddenly, there was a huge roar between heaven and earth, as if a huge meteorite had fallen. Chapter 24-23. This was an amazing attack. In the blink of an eye, cracks appeared in the sky, and the faint sound of the great Tao erupted. The corner of Yi Shiwen's mouth curled into a smile. He took a step forward, and his whole body turned into a thunderstorm as he rushed forward. Boom! A huge explosion sounded out as they collided fiercely. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The space began to violently fluctuate. Divine light surged and smoke rose into the air. A boundless power, as powerful as the ocean, swept out. It was too terrifying. This blow was not like a collision between two humans, but a collision between two huge stars. The array formations in the small world were activated almost immediately. Many of the array formations came to life and resisted the energy tide that was spreading out. Countless people were horrified. The battle just now made them tremble. They knew that if they rushed forward, they would definitely die immediately. It would be difficult to even resist the first blow. Right now, many demigods had a lingering fear in their hearts. Although a powerful formation had blocked off the repercussions of the explosion at the first instance, they could still sense an astonishing energy tide sweeping through the formation. This kind of energy made them faintly feel extremely uncomfortable. If it was someone below the demigod level, they would probably be seriously injured by this blow, even if it was just the aftermath. Many of the people present had experienced the battle between the two of them 20 years ago. Compared to 20 years ago, the two of them had undergone an earth-shattering change, as if they had been reborn. In particular, the sect master of the Jade Void Holy Land had an ugly expression. He was one of the witnesses of the battle 20 years ago, but compared to 20 years ago, both of them had undergone earth-shaking changes. If it were the two of them 20 years ago, this blow would be enough to destroy the other party. He had vaguely heard what kind of changes Venerable Yuan Miao had experienced in the past 20 years, what kind of hard cultivation, and what kind of price he had paid to achieve such progress. But what did Yi Shiwen rely on? It seemed like he was just an ordinary person. It did not seem like he had burned everything and contributed everything. This was the most terrifying thing in his heart. The smoke and dust dissipated, revealing the figures of the two, facing each other from a distance. The previous wave of attacks was just a probing attack for the two of them. They did not use their full strength, and they were even unharmed. Yi Shiwen, I haven't seen you for 20 years. You have become stronger. Venerable Yuan Miao's eyes flickered with a strange light. You're an outstanding person, but you shouldn't have sheltered the murderer of my child. You are already out of your mind, and if you want to seek retribution, then your child also deserves to die. You can't blame anyone, and you can't escape the wrongs of heaven, but you can't escape the wrongs of yourself, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. Up until now, the two of them still held onto each other's beliefs and did not waver. After that, the entire place fell into silence. However, many people could see that the two of them were accumulating power and becoming more and more terrifying. Venerable Yuan Miao's long skirt fluttered without any wind, as if a powerful force was awakening inside it. On the other side, Yi Shiwen was also doing the same. Every pore on his body had opened up, and was gushing out auspicious multicolored light. He was absorbing the world's lingqi, and was resonating with the world. Venerate Yuan Miao, this brat is too arrogant. Don't show him any mercy. The powerful white tiger demon Immortal warned loudly. Venerable Yuan Miao ignored him, and Yi Shiwen just glanced at him coldly. Roar. Suddenly, there was a roar of a dragon. Venerable Yuan Miao made a move. It was as if she had turned into a golden dragon and blasted out a punch. Martial Ancestors' unique technique, Imperial Dragon Subduing Fist. Her entire body seemed to have turned into a golden dragon. Coupled with the powerful physique tempering technique of Martial Ancestor, it was simply a perfect match and very powerful. The golden dragon cut through the sky, dragging a long flame tail, and blasted towards Yi Shiwen. At this moment, Venerable Yuan Miao had simply incarnated into the Dragon Emperor of a generation, suppressing all directions. At this moment, everyone felt a chill down their spines as they felt their hairs stand on end. What a powerful Imperial Dragon Subduing Fist! This is one of Emperor Qin's specialties, but I'm afraid there are only a few people who can use it to such an extent. Venerable Yuan Miao was originally only famous for her beauty, but not for her combat power. What kind of transformation has she experienced in the past 20 years? Roar! Almost at the same time, the rays of light emitted from Yi Shiwen's body directly swept up and turned into monstrous flames. In this sea of flames, he seemed to have been reborn from the fire. In the process of nirvana rebirth, he condensed into a huge phoenix, and its cries also shook the world. He slapped out his palm and pressed forward. His palm turned crimson and turned into a phoenix that blasted out. There were violent fluctuations in the sky. The battle between the two had turned into a confrontation between a dragon and a phoenix at this moment. The two major races that once fought in the heavens and realms seemed to be reenacting history at this moment. Boom! The sky exploded and endless divine radiance splashed out. The battle was too intense, like eagles soaring through the sky. Both of them were extremely fast, and opportunities were fleeting. It was impossible to give them any time to react. The spectators were dazzled, and it was too much for their eyes to take in. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's fist momentum was unparalleled, accompanied by endless dragon breath. It almost simulated a real dragon, while Yi Shiwen was like a phoenix, directly bursting out Nanmingli fire. Around them, countless talismans almost turned into phoenixes and real dragons that were fighting, imprinted in the world, resonating with the great Tao. Constant collisions, constant killing, and an amazing light burst out. Everyone was dazzled and horrified. They secretly guessed what kind of magical secret technique was this, what kind of physical body was this, and how strong it was. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's indifference emanated from her bones. Everyone could see the earth shaking and mountains shaking. Countless talismans were released from her body, and huge cracks were drawn in the world. Boom! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao stepped out and blasted out a punch, blasting through the sky and directly blasting in front of Yi Shiwen like a falling meteor. It was extremely powerful, and the terrifying momentum shrouded the earth. This was a killer move. The power was raised to the extreme, and she wanted to kill Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen roared. He slapped out with his palm, and countless flames condensed on his palm. Unwilling to show weakness, he rushed up. Boom! This was an amazing collision. Both of their arms were trembling. It was as if the ancient divine mountains had collided at this moment, and the sky was shattered. Everyone was secretly speechless. These two people's physical bodies were ridiculously tyrannical. They could tear the space with their bare hand. They were simply like two humanoid tyrannosauruses. Many people were shocked. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's tyrannical physique was well known. The secret weapon tactics was world famous, and it was also a famous physique training technique in the world. At that time, what was Yi Shiwen's origin? The tyrannical strength of his physical body was no less than that of senior immortal Yuan Miao, but if one considered that Yi Shiwen had only shown the strength of the peak of the immortal level so far, it was even more amazing. An immortal level was so amazing. This set of physique training technique was really amazing. However, everyone did not have time to think too much because this collision was just the beginning and not the end. Senior immortal Yuan Miao stepped up, and a green lotus burst out under her feet. It exploded on the spot, and she disappeared without a trace. When she reappeared, she had already chased in front of Yi Shiwen. She did not give Yi Shiwen any time to fight back. However, Yi Shiwen's reaction was not slow at all. His body movement technique was also very impressive. A pair of huge light wings directly unfolded behind him, as if he was shuttling through space. He actually launched a counterattack, directly appearing behind senior immortal Yuan Miao, and directly covering her with his palm. The void was fluctuating violently. The two of them chased each other in mid-air, constantly flashing and exchanging blows from time to time. It was as if they were constantly tearing through space and teleporting. However, everyone's eyesight was very outstanding. They could all see that it was not teleportation, but a teleportation effect achieved by relying on a powerful body movement technique. Many people's expressions changed. What kind of magic was this? What kind of body movement technique did these two people use? Everyone's eyes could not keep up with them. Only when they appeared could everyone's eyes capture them. Once they disappeared, even their divine telekinesis could not lock on. Both of their body movement techniques were very amazing. Even the gods felt that these two people's body movement techniques were probably beyond ordinary god-level martial art. They were at least at the king level. Whether it was agility technique or physical strength, both sides were almost equal. Both had amazing inheritances, and each had their own fortuitous encounters. Although Yi Shiwen looked a bit more amazing at this time, and was truly a matchless Heaven's Pride expert, but the problem was that this kind of thing couldn't solve the problem of the current situation. It was admittedly fair to fight on the same level, but there was no such thing as fairness in this world. The water of the Yellow River comes from the sky. Suddenly, senior immortal Yuan Miao stopped. She seemed to understand that if she continued to fight like this, she might not be able to do anything to Yi Shiwen. Her white palm grabbed toward the void, and directly grabbed a light sword. She slashed down at Yi Shiwen. The sword light seemed to turn into a surging river, drowning everything. It wanted to submerge this small world of millions of square kilometers and sink it. Everything in the world was shaking. The space was like a broken mirror, shattering inch by inch. Everything seemed to have been obliterated. Everything became silent, leaving behind all kinds of talismans of sword principle. These talismans of sword principle directly turned into a green lotus, filling the void, instantly drowning the battlefield, and then a series of explosions. Boom! 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 Endless explosions rang out. Chapter 24-24. Boom! 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 There were endless explosions. This series of explosions covered everything, flooded everything, and destroyed everything. The aftermath of the terrifying explosions swept out, completely overturning everything. Many arrays had just been resurrected, but they were drowned by the raging energy. Many people's faces changed drastically. They retreated again and again. Their hearts almost stopped beating. There was an illusion that made them go completely crazy. This is the Green Lotus Sword technique. Someone recognized it. This sword technique was too famous in the Heaven realm. It was impossible for them not to recognize it. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The surging energy was simply too frightening. This was a power that could destroy everything. It was a sword technique that attacked indiscriminately in a large area, suppressing everything. Even if they were far away, they only felt a cold feeling coming from it. They didn't dare to approach it. Right at that moment, a shocking sword gleam tore through everything and leaped out. Even the countless explosions were unable to stop this sword gleam. It was as if it was about to turn into a scarlet flame that rushed out. Boom! The sky was torn by this sword light, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed to the front of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. "Hiss, Yi Shiwen is actually fine," someone exclaimed. They clearly saw Yi Shiwen holding a long sword and directly tearing the green lotus in the sky. Poochie! The sword light flashed and directly penetrated Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body, causing a touch of blood. However, before the sword light had time to penetrate deeper into Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's body, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao disappeared in midair, activating her movement technique to escape instantly. However, the blood that splashed out still shocked everyone. The attack just now was too fast. It was almost a split second and the fight was over. Everyone didn't even have time to react. Yi Shiwen's figure was revealed. The 5 elements battle armor on his body was bursting with amazing energy. It was the power of the 5 elements battle armor that drowned everything in an instant. In the next moment, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao finally appeared in front of everyone. There was a flower of blood blooming on her chest. Just a little bit more, and she would have been pierced by Yi Shiwen's sword. What a fast speed! He seriously injured Venerable Yuan Miao in an instant. This is unimaginable. If this continues, can Immortal Venerable Yuan Miao really win? There's still a long way to go. How can Venerable Yuan Miao be easy to deal with? His 9-9 profound weapon art has already been cultivated to a shocking level. Otherwise, if an ordinary person were to take such a strike, I'm afraid their body would have already exploded, someone said. At this time, although Yi Shiwen's sword had the upper hand, no one dared to determine who would win. Humph! Venerable Yuan Miao made her move. Behind her, endless golden light erupted, making her look majestic and mighty, like an ancient deity who had revived. He had truly revealed the 9-9 mystic weapon art. This was the strongest aspect of her physical body. At the same time, Yi Shiwen also didn't give in. A pair of light wings stretched out behind him. It was like a pair of wings that could cover the sky and was constantly flapping. Just a slight flapping could change the color of the world. It enveloped the entire sky, and he was wearing the 5 Emperors' battle armor. That kind of surging Emperor's aura swept in all directions, like a great emperor in the world. He was not inferior at all. At this time, the two had truly erupted their true strength and amazing magical powers. "Suppress him for me!" Venerable Yuan Miao shouted loudly, and her big hand grabbed out. The white palm shone brilliantly against the golden light. It slammed across the vast sky, and the palm force that was released was mighty and incomparably heroic. At this time, Yi Shiwen also directly attacked. The power of the 5 elements flipped in his hand, and a punch was directly blasted out, shattering the sky. Even the entire world started to crack. Everyone had sensed this tyrannical power, causing them to feel like they were in a world of their own. This, the power of both sides has really soared to the eternal stage? Many people cried out in surprise. Compared to a moment ago, the power of both sides was more than twice as strong as before. It was completely unleashed. Both sides had adjusted their power to the level beyond the peak of the immortal level. He's really not just at the immortal level, but why haven't I seen him appear as an eternal stage Tao immortal? Many people were secretly shocked. They clearly saw Yi Shiwen's power that surpassed the immortal level, but they didn't see the phenomenon that surpassed the immortal level. It was completely different from Venerable Yuan Miao. A battle like this is rare even in the imperishable realm. There were also some eternal stage existences present, and many of them were Venerable Yuan Miao's admirers and pursuers. At this time, when they saw this scene, all of their expressions changed. With such power, if they were to go up, they would not be able to win at all. No wonder Yi Shiwen dared to ask them to attack together. In Yi Shiwen's eyes, even if they attacked together, they would not be his opponent at all. Boom! A huge roar and a shocking collision sounded. Hundreds of arrays were annihilated, and a gap appeared in the sky. There were even mysterious experts who personally repaired the cracks in this world. They were all moved. Originally, it was just a precaution, but they never expected that it had reached this point. Both sides were not polite and showed no mercy. An ancient great emperor and an ancient goddess both had supreme power and did not give in at all. Kill! Yi Shiwen roared, and once again rushed towards Venerable Yuan Miao. He completely let go. His gilded tyrant form was getting more and more tyrannical. The physique that could be compared with him in the past was now not worth mentioning at all. Even if they could grow to their current level, Yi Shiwen was confident that they would definitely not be his opponent. But now, Venerable Yuan Miao was different. The 99 arcane soldier technique was originally the supreme lost art of the great sage of war, Sun Wu. It was unknown how many gods and demons were torn apart with it. Later, it was obtained by Emperor Qin, and it bloomed with incomparable brilliance. After many improvements, it had now reached an extremely perfect level and could compete with him. Although Venerable Yuan Miao's current realm was suppressing Yi Shiwen could see that Venerable Yuan Miao was actually not good at the 99 arcane soldier technique, or rather, he did not regard his body as a supreme instrument like Yi Shiwen. This was a completely different path. There was no such thing as who was stronger and who was weaker, but who could be used more. Once again, the two of them began fighting in the sky. However, the many gods who were watching from afar felt their hearts skip a beat. It's so intense, but it's not a waste. I have been waiting for 20 years. He's really strong. Neither of them showed any obvious signs of weakness. Who do you think will win if this goes on? Someone said with uncertainty. Originally, everyone was more optimistic. Whether it was the family background or his own talent, Venerable Yuan Miao did not lose to anyone. More importantly, Venerable Yuan Miao's cultivation time far exceeded Yi Shiwen's. Although cultivation time could not completely determine anything in many cases, it could still play a key role in such a battle. Who would have thought that it was completely different from what everyone imagined? The two sides were actually evenly matched. Venerable Yuan Miao used various famous martial ancestors' lost techniques, and it was earth-shattering. However, Yi Shiwen was not to be outdone. Although many martial arts had never been heard of, they were not weak at all. This was enough to shock many people. Martial ancestors' lost techniques came from Emperor Qin. It could be said to be an emperor-level martial art, but Yi Shiwen was able to come up with good martial arts to compete with it. This already showed that his foundation was extraordinary. At least, he was not as simple as everyone thought. Why do I feel that Yi Shiwen has a higher chance of winning? Although both sides are fighting tit for tat, Yi Shiwen still takes the initiative more often. Everyone looked over. Sure enough, Yi Shiwen was calm and unruffled under the attack of senior immortal Yuan Miao. The martial arts he displayed were operated to the extreme. He was like a real emperor between heaven and earth, suppressing everything. All resistance in front of him was not a match at all. However, when everyone was still discussing, they saw Yi Shiwen blasting out a punch. Behind him, a huge turntable began to spin. 6 paths of reincarnation. It was a place where the dead should be buried, but it showed a mighty momentum. Human Tao Fist was launched. With the help of the destiny of the human race in the heaven realm, it suppressed all directions. The truly terrifying thing about the 6 paths of reincarnation fist was that it encompassed almost everything in the world. If one could truly cultivate it to perfection, no matter where one fought, they would be able to occupy the right time, place, and people. It was a fist technique that was completely invincible. Boom! Venerable Yuan Miao was blasted by the world formed by Yi Shiwen. His whole body flew out, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was seriously injured. Is the winner going to be decided? Someone exclaimed. At this point of the battle, it seemed that the outcome could already be decided. Impossible, Venerable Yuan Miao can't be defeated so easily, someone roared. Those were the supporters and pursuers of Venerable Yuan Miao. They didn't come from the outer domain to see this scene. However, they saw that in the collapsed mountain peak, Venerable Yuan Miao stood up. Under her feet there were blue lotuses, and there was a vast power surging. In her body, an extremely dangerous power was brewing, as if it could explode the entire universe and be born anew. Boom! Every pore on Venerable Yuan Miao's body was burning with raging flames. The power of her whole body was actually increasing exponentially, and she rushed into the intermediate stage of undead realm. This is your trump card? I'm in a mess now. Today is like a bolt from the blue. Some time ago, my mother was found to have a thyroid tumor, and then she went for an operation. When she went for a follow-up today, she was informed by the hospital that cancer cells were found in the tumor that was removed, but I don't know if the cancer cells have spread to other places. I still need to check again. My brain was almost in a mess all of a sudden. I was dumbfounded and confused. I always felt that cancer was far away from me in the past, but suddenly it came. I panicked and was confused. I suddenly felt that death was very close. Now I don't have any state of mind, and I don't have any mood. I'm also in a mess, and I have to try my best to comfort my mother. My mother has always kept everything in her heart, and the pressure is very great. Seeing her silently wiping her tears on the sofa, for the first time, I felt that she was old. I don't know how sad I am. Although I have been comforting myself and my mother that this cancer is nothing and won't kill people, I still feel very panicked. Now, I only hope that the cancer cells have been removed and haven't spread. In the past, Guo Jingming said that he worked so hard to make money because he wanted to use money to exchange blood for his parents' life when needed. I have never felt such a strong resonance. I have a strong feeling of powerlessness. I can't do anything, I can't even comfort them. Chaos, now it's a complete mess, a mess. Chapter 24-25. This is your trump card? Yi Shiwen said slowly and firmly. He knew that it was the most critical time. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao had used all her trump cards. He could no longer hold anything back. Boom! 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 3 loud roars sounded. 3 powerful martial arts incarnations rushed into his body in an instant. His strength also rose several levels in succession, directly rushing to the level comparable to Undead Realm Intermediate Stage. The surrounding people gasped. They didn't expect that both sides were still hiding their powerful strength at this point. They hadn't shown their full strength at all. Who could match such strength? Senior Immortal Yuan Miao walked like a dragon and a tiger, displaying an amazing movement technique. She directly rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Her figure was vigorous and vigorous. Her whole body seemed to have turned into the refinement of the world. Her whole body was burning with a terrifying flame, burning everything. Yi Shiwen also didn't show any weakness. He directly rushed up. On his body, around the 5 Emperors' battle armor, the power of the 5 elements swept out, forming a huge domain. Boom! The two directly collided with each other. It was a terrifying scene like Mars colliding with Earth. The terrifying shock wave formed pierced through the sky. Everyone was dazzled. Following the movements of the two, their hearts fluctuated with an inexplicable horror. This kind of terrifying power far exceeded their initial expectations. It was not only the undead realm, but it even surpassed the undead realm. Both of them were not ordinary people. Now, they had fallen to the point where they had to fight to the death. Boom! With another collision, Venerate Yuan Miao was knocked off the ground and flew high into the sky. She frowned slightly, but her expression didn't change. However, everyone could tell that this collision was far from simple. She had probably injured some of her Yuan Qi. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao directly swooped down from the sky. Wherever she passed, the path was filled with green lotuses. This green lotus seemed to represent the creation and destruction of the world. The two extreme powers were very terrifying. For the first time, Yi Shiwen's face was slightly solemn. He suddenly stepped on the ground, cracking the ground, and a terrifying force swept out. He gathered all the power in his body and burst out in an instant. 6 paths of reincarnation fist, human Tao fist. He roared and also used a sovereign emperor-level martial art. The sky trembled, rocks flew everywhere, and the ground shook violently. Boom! Another shocking collision took place. The green lotus rushed into the world of humanity and collided fiercely with the surging red dust chi. They fought and strangled each other. The power of both sides had been raised to the highest level. Neither of them could be considered as the strength of their real bodies. Both of them had more or less borrowed some external power. However, they were still so powerful that it made everyone raise their eyebrows. Whoosh! While the terrifying energies were still colliding, Yi Shiwen's leg swept out like a long whip, directly forming a monstrous power that swept Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's chest in an instant. Bang! Apotheosis Yuan Miao was directly swept away and sent flying. She couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. That kick just now had directly broken her rib. She was in excruciating pain, and blood kept flowing out. She laboriously formed a seal with both hands, forming a green lotus to protect herself in it. She wanted to heal the injuries on her body. However, how could Yi Shiwen give her this opportunity? He suddenly grabbed an amazing sword intent in his hand. It soared into the sky and directly pierced through this small world. It was none other than the sword intent of the ruler's sword. Bang! The sword intent directly turned into a long sword and penetrated into the green lotus. The green lotus that originally wrapped Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was directly blown apart by the sword, revealing the figure of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. What was surprising was that the chest that was seriously injured by Yi Shiwen and almost pierced by Yi Shiwen's foot actually recovered all of a sudden. This was also a very amazing healing sacred technique. The inheritance of martial ancestor was indeed extraordinary. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao quickly retreated, and Yi Shiwen constantly chased after her. Now the situation had completely changed. Initially, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao constantly took the initiative to attack, but now it was Yi Shiwen who repeatedly launched attack. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao wanted to escape. Everyone could see that the secret techniques of these two people couldn't last long, so neither of them planned to fight a protracted battle. They both planned to finish off their opponents in a short time, which was why such a difficult battle broke out. Swish! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao rushed out and appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. She directly trampled down, tearing the void, and directly rushed towards Yi Shiwen's head. It was an extremely amazing leg technique that swept over like a divine wind. Yi Shiwen grabbed it and actually grabbed Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's foot, then pulled it fiercely. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's entire body directly rushed over. Her reaction was even faster. Her other foot was like a blade, blasting towards Yi Shiwen at lightning speed. However, Yi Shiwen was even more ferocious. He directly flew up and kicked into the sky full of footprints. Bang! Yi Shiwen directly broke through the sky full of footprints, then directly stepped on Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's chest. Bang! In the end, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao flew out in the opposite direction like a cannonball. Her chest collapsed from Yi Shiwen's stomp. Her sternum was collectively broken, and even her internal organs were almost crushed by Yi Shiwen. At this time, many of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's supporters on the side widened their eyes. The goddess in their hearts was actually treated like this by Yi Shiwen. There was no trace of mercy at all. Both sides went all out. It was impossible to hold back at all. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao wanted to kill Yi Shiwen because Yi Shiwen had almost become her inner demon at this time. If she couldn't kill him, it would be difficult to let him go. If she really cut off this obsession, there might even be a situation of regression in her future. Yi Shiwen also had a reason not to give up. This time, it was related to whether he was qualified to go to the ancient Phoenix domain to find a spouse. He couldn't give up. Rumble! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao directly hit the ground, pulling out a huge crack thousands of miles long on the ground. Puff! She kept vomiting blood, but her body was still struggling to get up. It's useless. You are not my opponent. It's not too late to let go now, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. His expression was incomparably cold. There was no trace of sympathy, nor was she worthy of sympathy. Again, Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's divine power was burning, and her essence was boiling. Like a burning cyan lotus, she rushed towards Yi Shiwen again. It was impossible for her to give up. The revenge of her son's death was just a few days away. This Yi Shiwen is too strong. He hasn't suffered a single loss from the beginning to the end. He completely crushed Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. The situation has been completely reversed. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao is probably in trouble now. Damn it, I'm going to attack. Those supporters of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao roared and wanted to attack, but they were suppressed by a mysterious force. They were not allowed to attack and were not allowed to act recklessly. This battle happened in full view of everyone. If anything went wrong, the reputation of martial sect would be destroyed. Therefore, it was likely that a martial sect expert had made a move, and they were not allowed to act recklessly. Martial sect experts could be defeated, but they couldn't ruin the reputation of martial sect like this. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath, and then blasted out with a punch, turning into a human path world. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was caught off guard, and was blasted out on the spot. After being injured, her strength couldn't be compared with her peak. Moreover, she couldn't be compared with Yi Shiwen at her peak. Now, it was only an obsession that supported her to fight, looking for Yi Shiwen's flaws. In that case, there might be a glimmer of hope. However, she was destined to be disappointed. How tyrannical was Yi Shiwen! Not only was his physical body always maintained at its peak state, but even his mental state wouldn't have the slightest fluctuation under the suppression of the Mingxin ancient tree. He was as precise and cold as a robot. It was impossible for him to make any mistake. However, an even more amazing scene happened. After Yi Shiwen broke out with a human path fist, he didn't stop at all and blasted out a second time. Venerable Yuan Miao didn't expect that Yi Shiwen could use such a powerful martial art without any interruption. He was simply a freak. The spiritual power in his body had probably reached a level that no one could surpass in the past or in the future. Many people's expressions changed, especially many deities. They could all see it clearly, and they also understood how terrifying the spiritual power reserve was needed to continuously break out a martial art of this level. What kind of Dharma body did Yi Shiwen have? Not only was it tyrannical and sturdy, but its spiritual power storage was also very outstanding. Boom! Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was blasted out. She was caught off guard. She was the most surprised. Even her ashen eyes burst with a very amazing divine light. However, Yi Shiwen obviously planned to shock the world today. His offensive was not over yet, and another human path fist blasted out. Once again. One more time. When Yi Shiwen blasted out more than a dozen six paths of reincarnation fists in one breath, everyone was already numb and didn't feel anything. If they were still shocked at first, they were already used to it now. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao desperately wanted to resist, but often before the first attack was completely resolved, the next wave of attacks, and even the next wave of attacks had already hit. Boom! 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 She was constantly blasted out. Dense cracks appeared on her golden Dharma body, and blood kept oozing out. The whole scene looked extremely miserable. More than a dozen 6 paths of reincarnation fists blasted out almost at the same time. Who could resist such a terrifying offensive? Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was no exception. Finally, she spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Chapter 24-26. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was defeated just like that. Everyone was completely dumbfounded. The battle between Senior Immortal Yuan Miao and Yi Shiwen was decided just like that. The battle was completely over. Although Senior Immortal Yuan Miao did not die, it was impossible for her to continue to compete with Yi Shiwen. A series of 6 paths of reincarnation fists completely defeated her. Yi Shiwen's aura gradually weakened. The 3 martial arts incarnations were also exhausted in the 6 paths of reincarnation fists just now. There was not a trace left at all. However, the effect was also very significant. Senior Immortal Yuan Miao was defeated instantly. This was also a trump card and a fighting method that he had newly developed. The effect of this fighting method was remarkable. Although it would exhaust the spiritual power in the body in an instant, it could defeat any strong enemy with 10 times the strength. However, this method could not be used all the time. He would only use it under the watchful eyes of the public when he could guarantee his safety. He would not use it under normal circumstances. After a few breaths, his spiritual power had recovered to a small extent. He was much more at ease. At this time, a big hand broke through the sky and took away the seriously injured Senior Immortal Yuan Miao, leaving only a cold sentence. You won. The slot is yours. From now on, the matter between you two is written off. Everyone was also secretly guessing who the owner of this big hand was, but no one could guess that it was the Yuan family's old ancestor. However, they had heard of the grievances between Yi Shiwen and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. It started when Yi Shiwen's disciple, Gao Qingye, killed Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's son. Yi Shiwen accepted this challenge to settle this grudge. As for the deeper matter of the slot, they did not know what it was. They only thought that they had heard it wrong. Although some people didn't like Yi Shiwen, but many people secretly admired him for doing so much for his disciple. Damn it! In an instant, those supporters of Senior Immortal Yuan Miao suddenly went crazy. It was a kind of torture to watch Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's golden body collapse after being beaten by Yi Shiwen. They went completely crazy, and chased after Yi Shiwen one after another. Everyone looked at this change in a daze. Yi Shiwen just looked at them coldly and spat out a few words indifferently. Come and die together. Whoosh. Yi Futian stomped on the ground, and his entire body shuttled through the void, charging directly in front of these people. The first one was White Tiger, who had spoken rudely before. He still appeared in his original form. His body was like a small mountain, and he had a very powerful deterrent force. Pucci. The ruler's sword intent had appeared in Yi Shiwen's hand at some point, and he pierced through the powerful White Tiger demon god with his sword. Blood sprayed everywhere. Then, his corpse was caught and put into the Tianyuan mirror. Just one sword strike had pierced through a powerful imperishable realm expert. Although imperishable realm experts were said to be able to resurrect as long as they had a little bit of cells left, when this force exceeded their endurance, they would also die instantly. What? He actually possesses such great power! Many people cried out in alarm. They had clearly seen that Yi Shiwen had consumed all of his magic power in an instant. So, how come he had become so powerful now? It didn't seem like he had just gone through a big battle. Many people were puzzled, but some people had already come to the conclusion that his recovery ability was probably earth-shattering and earth-shattering. In such a short time, just a few breaths, he had actually recovered to this point. How could they kill him in the future? In the crowd, Gao Qingye's heart had just calmed down a little. Just now when Yi Shiwen was ambushed by these Eternal Realm Masters, He immediately rushed out. Although he was only a demigod and was simply as fragile as an ant when facing the Eternal Realm Master's ambush, but he couldn't care so much anymore. Yi Shiwen fought with Senior Yuan Miao because of him, so he couldn't just sit back and watch. Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen had recovered a considerable amount of power in an instant? This kid, his recovery speed is really fast. In the crowd, Ao Yen looked at Yi Shiwen and couldn't help but say. Yi Shiwen's strength was stronger than he initially expected, much stronger. If it were us, I'm afraid we really wouldn't be this kid's opponent. His strength is too confusing. He's simply a freak. Yes, that's it. Ao Yen nodded and said, even Senior Yuan Miao, that woman who has already fallen into madness, was beaten to this state by him. He's really a freak. Brother, look, I told you that he will definitely win. Ling Fei's face showed a bright smile. She was even happier than if she won herself. Ling Tian's indifferent face showed a touch of emotion and said, it's a pity that my incarnation is not his opponent. Otherwise, it would be a worthy opponent. Yes, this was not Ling Tian's real body. It was only an avatar, but it said that Yi Shukong would only be qualified to fight him after he broke through to the imperishable realm. It was clear that the strength of Ling Tian's real body had reached an unbelievable level. Ling Fei didn't refute. She was very clear about the strength of her brother. Ling Tian was different from her. He had outstanding innate talent since childhood. Moreover, he was a martial arts madman. He had poured all his strength into cultivation. This was the most terrifying thing about him. It was unknown how many opponents he had defeated until now. Her brother was invincible in her heart. Perhaps Yi Shiwen would have a chance to be mentioned in the same breath as her brother in this generation. However, the others shouldn't even think about it. Ling Tian was slightly moved. Then, he calmed down and said, it's just that, it's far from enough to become the son-in-law of our fallen angel clan. Brother. Ling Fei rebuked. Her small face had turned red. Am I wrong? Ling Tian's face exposed a rare teasing expression. I don't care about these things. I'm not father. I'm destined to surpass father. I want to carve out an emperor's road for our clan. Ling Fei looked at Ling Tian's face. She knew that he was serious. She knew that her brother's ambition was to carve out an emperor's road for the fallen angel clan. He would become the first emperor in the history of the fallen angel clan. There were only 2 clans among the 8 king clans of the Devil World that didn't have a emperor-level expert. One of them was the fallen angel clan. The fallen angel clan could be ranked among the 8 king clans because their father king was keeping watch. He was faintly regarded as the #1 expert of the Devil World. Ling Tian had been invincible since childhood. It had been difficult for him to find a rival among his peers of similar age. He had such an incomparably powerful father and brother. Therefore, Ling Fei hadn't been interested in those so-called Heaven's Pride experts since childhood. In her opinion, they couldn't even be compared with the little finger of her father and brother. That human called Yi Shiwen had appeared. He had been very weak at that time. In fact, he was so weak that he wasn't even comparable to the pet she had raised. However, she couldn't forget this person for hundreds of years. She didn't know what was good about some people. However, no one could replace them. Let's talk about it after he defeats me, Ling Tian insipidly said. Yi Shiwen's slaughter was still going on in the field. These formidable undead realm experts couldn't withstand a single blow in front of Yi Shiwen. His fighting strength wasn't at its peak anymore. However, an ordinary expert of the initial stage of undead realm couldn't be compared with him. Moreover, Yi Shiwen's Dominator's sword intention was extremely terrifying. He had only practiced this move. But it was enough to sweep away everyone with the Dominator's sword intention alone. It would have been very difficult for an ordinary person to kill an undead realm expert. However, Yi Shiwen had gone straight to the core. His sword had pierced through their bodies along with their godheads on the spot. Their godheads were the essence of their martial arts intent. So, they had died a tragic death after being pierced by his sword. Poochie! 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 The sound of the sword intention entering one's body was followed by a series of blood spurting out. The most terrifying thing was that Yi Shiwen was getting stronger the more he fought. His recovery speed was also getting faster as time went by. He was gradually approaching the peak. Those people who had wanted to take advantage of his weakness were left dumbfounded at this time. They were thoroughly scared and terrified. It's really amazing. There haven't been many people with this kind of recovery ability since ancient times. The entire microcosm had already been completely boiling. Some people were happy and some people looked gloomy. Not everyone wanted to see Yi Shiwen's great power. There were also some people who wanted him to die early. But, seeing that his strength was recovering more and more, there was naturally an indescribable anger in their hearts. The sword intention in his hand is special. It can kill an undead realm expert with one sword. I'm afraid his background isn't small. Ling Tian said faintly, as if he had seen through everything. His eyes were fixed on the sword intention in Yi Shiwen's hand. In that sword aura, there was a hint of a dominator's aura. There was a feeling of a monarch descending to the world. Yi Shiwen was able to kill an undead realm expert with one sword attack. To a large extent, he relied on this sword intention. Otherwise, an undead realm expert would not be so easy to kill. Only by destroying his soul in an instant would he die completely. Even if his body was still alive and full of vitality, it would be useless in the case of the death of the spirit. What was more terrifying was that as these powerful existences of the undead realm were beheaded, their Tao was stripped out, their godhood was analyzed, and their magical powers were learned by Yi Shiwen. He was becoming more and more powerful. After stabbing the last powerful undead realm expert to death, Yi Shiwen stopped. He had vaguely felt that there was a barrier that belonged to the undead realm. To make a breakthrough in such a short period of time, these undead realm experts contributed a lot. The real breakthrough was probably very close, but it was still not enough. There was still a little bit left. It seemed to be a paper-thin distance, but in fact, it was so close. He didn't know if it would take him hundreds of years. He could only obtain it with the help of external forces. He was determined to get the heavenly fire fruit. Chapter 24-27. Is there anyone else who wants to come up? Yi Shiwen glanced at the crowd and said in a cold tone. His expression was indifferent, and his eyes were emotionless as if he was looking at a group of dead people. However, at this time, no one dared to look for trouble with Yi Shiwen again. Didn't they see a group of peak immortal level and peak imperishable level masters die tragically in his hands? Everyone had witnessed with their own eyes how this demon-like fellow killed those powerful gods in a short amount of time. Moreover, he was merciless. It was not like when he faced Venerable Yuan Miao Immortal. He was merciful and did not kill her. However, he killed her supporters forcefully just because they dared to attack him. Yi Shiwen's domineering character also began to make everyone tremble. Many of those people who were killed came from some powerful clans. In this clan, they were at the great ancestor level. Now that they were ruthlessly killed, it showed that Yi Shiwen's attitude towards these clans did not matter at all. However, it was reasonable to think about it. Since someone wanted to kill him, would it still depend on the number of opponents? It was just that most people did not have the courage to do so. More importantly, some people had witnessed the battle between Yi Shiwen and Venerable Yuan Miao Immortal last time. At that time, Yi Shiwen really wanted to kill Venerable Yuan Miao Immortal. If Venerable Yuan Miao was not taken away at the critical moment, he might really succeed. Many people had cold sweat on their back. This was a lawless person. Seeing that no one dared to attack again, Yi Shiwen gave up. However, at this time, his aura had recovered to the peak and was very powerful. He felt a little pity. Many of Venerable Yuan Miao Immortal's supporters were powerhouses at the imperishable level. They all had godheads. With godheads, it was very easy to figure out the other party's Tao. For him now, it was also an excellent opportunity to learn by analogy. Some even touched the core magical powers and spells of a clan. It was a rare opportunity. After all, if those gods felt that they were no match for him, they would only self-destruct on the spot to prevent their spells and magical powers from leaking out. However, Yi Shiwen's movements were too fast. It was almost one sword per person, and no one could escape. This caused the godheads to be somewhat damaged, but most of them were still very valuable. Their magic power was enough for the heavenly source mirror to devour further. And their great ways were enough to nourish Yi Shiwen. This was a rare opportunity. But now they didn't dare to come up, and Yi Shiwen also couldn't rush up and start a massacre. Just a moment ago, they had a good reason to attack. Although they were afraid, it didn't matter. But if they started a massacre for no reason, then Yi Shiwen would become the public enemy. Yi Shiwen, I knew that you would win. That old woman is no match for you. Ling Fei ran over and said. She had begged for a long time before Ling Tian brought her along. That's natural. Yi Shiwen laughed and said. Then, he found Yi Shukong and the others in the crowd and told them that he needed 3 days to consolidate his cultivation before setting off for the ancestors' land. This time, Ling Fei also wanted to follow them. However, that was the ancestral land of the human race. She was a member of the fallen angel race. So, she naturally couldn't go in. So, she could only give up resentfully. Yi Shiwen automatically entered into a closed-door training state after he had spoken to them. However, the outside world had sunk into an uproar because of his matter. Did Yi Shiwen really win the battle between Yi Shiwen and Senior Immortal Yuan Miao? Many people below the demigod level were not qualified to go in and watch at all. They could only know about it through other people's retelling. Even many deities did not go in that day, but they were also paying attention to the news. When they really got the news, they couldn't help but feel a little incredulous. They didn't expect that Yi Shiwen was even more terrifying than they imagined. He actually won against Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. How could this be? How did Yi Shiwen win? I bet on Senior Immortal Yuan Miao to win. My divine source. Countless people screamed. Many people were not optimistic about Yi Shiwen. In the gambling house, they naturally bet on Senior Immortal Yuan Miao. As a result, they lost everything. What's more terrifying is that Senior Immortal Yuan Miao couldn't even injure him in the entire city. He was completely suppressed. Someone spread an even more terrifying detail. Many people were even more dumbfounded. It was completely different from the situation of barely winning after going all out in the imagination. It was a completely one-sided battle. Whether it's movement technique or physical body, Yi Shiwen can be said to be invincible in the same realm. At least I haven't heard of anyone who can have a combat power that is comparable to him in the same realm. Many people were dissatisfied with such an assertion, especially since many of the gods were the geniuses of the past. They had their own pride. It would have been fine if they had passed, but the new immortal-level gods who were on peak stage were rather dissatisfied. Who knew who would win or lose before the battle? These people were very conceited and boasted that they had some trump cards. Perhaps they could barely compete with Eternal Realm. They did not think that they would be worse than Yi Shiwen, but they had never really seen it. Many people even clamored that after Yi Shiwen came out, they also wanted to fight with Yi Shiwen to prove who was stronger and who was weaker. Some people were simply dissatisfied, and some people simply wanted to use Yi Shiwen's shoulders to rise. Yi Shiwen stepped on Senior Immortal Yuan Miao's shoulders to rise. They wanted to defeat Yi Shiwen and become famous in the world. However, after hearing these words, those who watched the battle at the scene, especially those veteran powerhouses, were even more disdainful. How could they really understand the horror of Yi Shiwen's combat power without being there? The sky fell and the earth cracked. Even deities would tremble in such a battle. Even eternal realm masters who were higher than him were killed in groups, let alone a group of immortal level peak? In many people's opinion, Yi Shiwen's combat power was simply comparable to the intermediate stage of eternal realm. If he was defeated in the hands of a group of young immortal level deities at the peak of immortal level, it would be a big joke. Then after this news, the most shocking thing was that Yi Shiwen killed a group of eternal realm and immortal level deity masters as if he was slaughtering chickens and duck. One sword for one person, and no one could stop him. This immediately made many young gods who were clamoring to deal with Yi Shiwen feel as if their necks were being strangled. Even if they were thick-skinned, even if they were confident, it was enough to see a kind of great horror in this matter. Even if Yi Shiwen's strength was overestimated to a certain extent, even if it was overestimated, it was far more powerful than they imagined. After learning this news, they suddenly did not dare to say anything more and disappeared without a trace. Even some people who were less courageous simply fled Wudu and did not dare to show up, for fear that Yi Shiwen would find trouble with them after he came out of seclusion. What a joke! This was a terrifying existence who destroyed senior immortal Yuan Miao's golden body and slaughtered immortal level peak and eternal realm masters as if they were chickens and dogs. Being powerful was nothing. What was really terrifying was that this guy had no fear at all. He was simply a lawless person. Many people even had the heart to cry after provoking such a guy. Why couldn't they help but find trouble with him before? Why did they have to use him as a springboard to become famous in the world? That was completely unscientific. At this time, they really even had the heart to commit suicide. Even those who were bold stayed in Wudu and did not go out. They were unprecedentedly low-key, for fear of provoking Yi Shiwen. At this time, Yi Shiwen had the ability to stop a child from crying in martial capital. Overnight, his ominous reputation had already spread far and wide. It had already made many people tremble in fear. Now, they saw a group of young gods and heaven's chosen ones running away in tears upon hearing his name. This further intensified the spread of his reputation. Yi Shiwen's name spread throughout the entire heaven realm at an astonishing speed, causing a sensation for a while. Another busy person was Yi Shukong. Ever since he amazed everyone at the gathering, there were also a lot of people who were not convinced by him. Whether it was because they were jealous that he had a beauty in his arms, or jealous that he had a famous teacher, they all came up with various excuses to challenge him. In 3 days, Yi Shukong had already fought 10 battles, big and small, and actually won all 10 of them. In an instant, Yi Shukong also became famous. Although he was not as terrifying as Yi Shiwen, who could slaughter eternal realm masters, he was already considered one of the few powerhouses in peak immortal level. Seeing Yi Shukong like this, everyone was comforted. This was a normal person. Yi Shiwen was a monster and could not be counted. If every immortal level peak immortal level was like Yi Shiwen, those powerful existences in the eternal realm would probably immediately jump up and down as if they were sitting on pins and needles. Especially when they learned that Yi Shiwen and Yi Shukong were both from the Yi family of the clan of the ancients, many people even gave them the title of the Yi family's twin stars. A human family in a remote area could actually produce 2 gods, and both of them were so powerful. It was definitely a blessing in disguise. In the 3 days that the outside world was in chaos, Yi Shiwen did not pay attention to what was going on outside and focused on consolidating his cultivation in seclusion. He had also gained a lot from this battle. Some of his ideas had also been verified in the battle, which was the biggest gain. Apart from that, there were also many imprints of the great Tao in those godheads, as well as the understanding of the eternal realm masters of the eternal realm. This gave him a deeper understanding of the eternal realm, and he was also more confident in breaking through to the eternal realm in the future. Most importantly, He had also analyzed the almost complete godhead given to him by the Lord of Fire to a whole new level. When he first obtained this godhead, his ability could not be compared to now. Now, he had an extremely deep understanding of the eternal realm, and it was even far beyond the ordinary eternal realm masters. It would be shocking if he told others about it. Just like that, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The time to go to the ancestral land of the human race had arrived. Chapter 24-28. The ancestral lands of humanity was a mysterious space. No one knew where it was, and the only way to connect to the ancestral lands of humanity was through a series of portals. There was also such a portal in Wudu. It was a powerful formation set up by the legendary Emperor Qin himself, and it could directly teleport to the ancestral lands of humanity. 3 days later, Yi Shiwen came out of seclusion, feeling unprecedentedly powerful. He had completely consolidated his realm, and he was only 1 step away from the eternal realm. This step could be crossed in a single step, or it could be a lifetime's distance. When Yi Shiwen saw everyone again, there was no change in the others. Only Yi Shukong's strength had improved by a lot. In the past few days there had been 10 battles. Each of them had been a confrontation between peerless experts. Their strength had reached an unimaginable level. Yi Shukong was able to win, and naturally, he had obtained great benefit. Although he did not crush his opponents as easily as Yi Shiwen, he was already a world-famous genius. This time, I owe everyone a favor, Qin Lai said with a smile. Although it was only an avatar, it made no difference at the moment. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's go, Heavenly Fire Fruit? Ao Yen was almost drooling just thinking about it. This group of people were all stuck at the peak of the eternal realm, and they all needed the Heavenly Fire Fruit to break through to the eternal realm, so they could not wait any longer. Moreover, they were all young. In terms of the gods, they were at most 2,000 or 3,000 years old, so they were definitely juniors. They were all geniuses from various forces with boundless futures. Let's go. Qin Lai waved his hand and opened the formation in the depths of the Phoenix Palace. In the sky, a huge gate of heaven appeared, and the bronze gate slowly opened. Yi Shiwen didn't speak among the crowd, but he could still feel tyrannical divine senses sweeping over his body. The transmission channel leading to the ancestral land of the human race was extremely important. In fact, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was related to the rise and fall of the human race. How could there not be powerful masters guarding it? Even in the Phoenix Palace, there were also powerful old antiques guarding near this passage all year round. Everyone stepped into the bronze teleportation gate. They felt the space distort, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived. What entered everyone's eyes was a desolate scene. It was different from the prosperous scene that they had imagined. This was a barren, primitive world. Everywhere was a desolate scene. There were countless mountains and lofty ridges. From time to time, the roars of ferocious beasts could be heard in the distance. Ferocious birds that covered half the sky flew past in the distance. There was a vast and wondrous scene everywhere. Damn, this place is even more desolate than I imagined, Monk Huizhen said with a grin. Although he had become a monk, he was still a human after all. He naturally had feelings and fantasies about the ancestral land. It was just that this ancestral land seemed to be a wild land that had not been developed at all. It was barren, as if they had returned to the ancient world. It is indeed very desolate. It is indeed very barren. The ancestors' land is not as developed as the outside world. It is still relatively primitive. However, there are some relatively powerful tribes in the ancestors' land, some of which are even as powerful as the king's sect. In fact, our martial sect also has a stronghold here. However, according to the agreement between our martial sect and the tribes in the ancestors' land, we will not compete with these tribes for resources. We set up a stronghold here to protect the ancestors' land and to provide a place for our disciples who come here to train. Qin Lai explained. Yi Shiwen and Yi Shukong were a little shocked when they heard this. After all, the two of them were not serious. They grew up in the regal sects, so they might not know some of the secret. These primitive tribes actually had powerful strength that was not inferior to the regal sects. If word got out, it would be enough to scare a lot of people to death. One must know that even the Hidden Valley was only a regal sect. Although it was a first-rate force among the regal sects, it was not on the same level as the entire human race. No wonder the human race was one of the few powerful races in the world. Not only the immortal inheritance in the heaven realm, but the ancestral land also contained unimaginably powerful strength. These tribes are nothing, but there is one thing that we need to pay attention to, and that is the Emperor clan, Ji clan. Our relationship with the Emperor clan is not very good. Qin Lai reminded. And they are very powerful. Nowadays, in the heaven realm, many people only know that our martial sect is the leader. That is because my ancestor proved the way in the modern times. However, when it comes to real strength and heritage, the Emperor clan is still the leader. Everyone's expression became serious, especially Yi Shiwen. During this period of time in the heaven realm, he had actually heard many legends about the Emperor clan, Ji clan. It was an unprecedented and powerful family. Since ancient times, the human race had produced a lot of emperor lords. Just the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors who were famous in the world and fought for the human race's status as a powerful race. Among these 8 emperor lords, 6 of them came from the Ji clan. Starting with the Yellow Emperor, 5 more powerful emperor lords came from the Mecha clan. These 5 emperor lords had protected the human race for a long period of time. They had fought bloody battles, and not 1 or 2 of them had fallen. Take the 100 birds looking towards the Phoenix Palace as an example. It was the magic tool of Emperor Xiao Hao, one of the 5 emperors. During that period of time, not long after Emperor Xiao Hao had obtained the way and ascended the throne, the war between the human race, the demon race, and the demon race had entered the most intense stage. The demon race was the first to be eliminated from the heaven realm and returned to the devil realm. However, they had kidnapped hundreds of millions of people of the human race and went to the devil realm. Emperor Xiao Hao hurriedly chased them into the devil realm and engaged in a fierce battle with the demon king at that time. In the end, both of them died in battle, and outsiders thought that they had mysteriously disappeared. Later, Emperor Qin entered the devil realm, and finally brought the news of the death of the 100 birds looking towards the Phoenix Palace and Emperor Xiao Hao back to the heaven realm. However, there were more than 1 or 2 emperor lords in the Ji clan who had fought to the death for the human race. In fact, countless Ji clan's ancestors had died on the battlefield, and had died on the front lines of the rise of the human race. Later, the Ji clan's emperor lords and many gods had also died on the front lines in the war against the heavens. They had made great contributions to the myriad worlds. It was the sacrifice of these people that had forged the prestige of the Ji clan as an emperor clan. It had become the first emperor clan in the myriad world. It was also the only emperor clan in the myriad world. After all, no other clan could produce so many emperor lords apart from the Ji clan. Even the 6 royal clans among the 8 royal clans of the demon race that had produced the demon king could only be a royal clan. And there was only one emperor clan, the Ji clan of the human race. Every time he read the historical records, Yi Shiwen would feel his blood boiling. He wished that he could be born in the same era as his ancestors. He would be bathed in blood on the battlefield. Even if the sky was dyed with blood in the end, he would not have any regrets. However, the relationship between the Ji clan and the martial sect was not that harmonious. Back then, the Ji clan had been silent for a long time. Many demon gods and demon gods had invaded the heaven realm. At the critical moment, Emperor Qin had turned the tide and stood up to save the heaven realm. As a result, he had achieved supreme prestige and became the leader of the human race. During this process, the Ji clan wanted to seize the leadership of the human race again. However, they were rejected by the major forces of the human race at that time. Yi Shiwen had read this part of history before. He guessed that that battle was the battle that established Emperor Qin's supreme prestige. And the battlefield where Emperor Qin killed his way out of the heaven realm was most likely the battlefield of the gods and demons outside the true martial realm. To this day, that place was still a dangerous place. This was the battlefield from countless years ago. Just by looking at the many gods and demons buried here, one could see how fierce that battle was. Everyone knows that the Ji clan had once come to our martial sect to ask for the Phoenix Palace, but they were rejected by our ancestor. However, this is only one of the reasons, Qinlai said. More importantly, the ancestor of the Ji clan, Emperor Huang Xuanyuan's invincible supreme sword technique, Xianyuan swordsmanship, is actually also in our martial sect. What? How could Xianyuan swordsmanship be in the martial sect? Yi Shukong said in shock. Emperor Huang Xianyuan was the founder of the Emperor clan, the Ji clan. In terms of strength, he was unprecedented and unstoppable. After the earthly Emperor Shennong fell in battle against the demon emperor, he turned the tide and ascended to the throne. He brought peace to the world and protected the human race. He was also the turning point of the human race's rise to prosperity. At the same time, Emperor Huang Xianyuan was recognized as a genius in the way of the sword. It was said that when he was born, he was holding the Xianyuan sword in his hand. He was the destined sword emperor. Later on, Emperor Huang Xianyuan disappeared, and not much of his sword technique was passed down. Even the Ji clan's technique was only incomplete. Unexpectedly, there was a powerful sword technique like Xianyuan swordsmanship in the martial sect. This was also a fortuitous encounter of the Qin emperor. However, because we are not on good terms with the Ji clan, we have never sent the Xianyuan swordsmanship back. Qinlai continued, however, the people in the outside world do not know that this sword technique is very important. It was left behind by the Holy Emperor. My ancestor also admired the deeds of the Holy Emperor. He did not dare to entrust the sword technique to the wrong person. Therefore, there are very few inheritors in each generation. It is also a relatively mysterious branch in our martial sect. Yi Shiwen suddenly understood. No wonder the Ji clan and the martial sect were not on good terms. Their ancestors' Dao Tool and Supreme Divine Technique had fallen into the hands of the martial sect. However, they could not get it back. Naturally, they were extremely unhappy. However, this was not snatched from the Ji clan by the Qin emperor. It was found by the Qin emperor after the Ji clan wandered outside. They had nothing to say. Although the Holy Emperor and Xiaohao were their ancestors, they were also the ancestors of the entire human race. Our martial sect is mainly active in the heaven realm. However, the Ji clan is different. The Ji clan moved into the ancestral land a long time ago. Therefore, they are very powerful here. Qinlai reminded. I know. However, the Ji clan is an emperor clan. They should have a lot of experts. If we can fight with them, it will be an extremely pleasant thing. Monk Huizhen was a little excited just thinking about it. Chapter 24-29. Monk Huizhen was the same as many monks in the Western Paradise. He was not a proper monk. When it came to fighting, he was quite excited. He was different from Ling Tian. Ling Tian was ambitious and saw fighting as the best way to improve himself. However, Monk Huizhen was different. He simply liked to fight. They looked similar, but in fact, they were not the same type of people. However, Qinlai's words did not scare everyone. On the contrary, everyone, including Yi Shiwen, had a look of eagerness on their faces. The imperial clan, Ji clan. What a great name! There should be countless geniuses in the clan. It should be even more satisfying to defeat such a person. Alright, you guys. Ha ha ha, but also the Imperial Clan, G-Clan. Ha 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 ha. Qinlai could not help but laugh. Suddenly, at this moment, they saw a powerful ferocious bird flying towards them. Its body was as huge as a mountain range, and it swept over in an instant. It was a powerful bird that was bright yellow in color, and every strand of its fur was like lightning. It's a lightning bird. This is also a powerful vicious bird with divinity, Qinlai said. This lightning bird had just reached the Tao. It was the time when its ferocity was at its peak. It felt the surging vitality of everyone. It actually had a whimsical thought and wanted to swallow everyone. This kind of innately powerful vicious beast might not have enough intelligence. Or it might think that everyone was a pushover. Haha, leave this to me. I still lack a guardian dragon. It's just right for me to subdue it. Monk Huizhen laughed loudly. He took a step forward. His entire body emitted a golden Buddha's light. His appearance was solemn. It seemed that he had the aura of an otherworldly expert. In Buddhism, there was the 8 groups of heavenly dragons. These 8 groups of heavenly dragons were the guardians of Buddhism. However, although they were called the 8 groups of heavenly dragons, this dragon did not only refer to the dragon clan. Other races could also be called guardian dragons. Everyone did not move. They only saw Monk Huizhen shout loudly. It was the great divine power of the Buddhist sect's lion's roar. It directly made the fierce lightning bird dizzy, and it almost fell down. Monk Huizhen stepped forward and said, "You're a ferocious beast that's hard to tame. It's just nice for you to become a heavenly dragon guardian with me. I'll slowly reform you. Sooner or later, you'll become a Buddha. Isn't that great?" However, this lightning bird was extremely ferocious. It let out a cry, and all of its lightning-like fur stood up. In an instant, thunder rumbled, and the heavens and the earth transformed into a sea of lightning. This was a natural-born thunder god. He was born to cultivate the law of thunder and lightning. He was extremely fierce. Ha ha ha, are you planning to bathe me with this bit of lightning? Monk Huizhen's body flickered with golden light. This was the Buddhist sect's Zhang 6 golden body. It was a famous and powerful body cultivation technique. When cultivated to the extreme, it could be said to be invincible in the world. He walked towards the lightning bird step by step. The lightning bird's ferocious eyes were now filled with fear. It was only ferocious, but it wasn't without intelligence. A life without intelligence couldn't truly attain the Tao. With the innate bloodline, reaching the demigod realm was already the limit. Proving one's Tao required great wisdom and perseverance. Swish! The lightning bird's entire body turned into a flash of light in the rain of lightning. It was extremely fast. In an instant, it had already rushed in front of Monk Huizhen. Its sharp claws grabbed towards Monk Huizhen. Bang! Monk Huizhen's big hand grabbed out and directly collided with the lightning bird. It was an earth-shattering collision. The lightning bird let out a scream and suffered a great loss. Blood flowed down from its sharp claws. In the battle with Monk Huizhen, it suffered a little. At this time, the lightning bird had already realized that it might not be Monk Huizhen's opponent. It quickly turned around and spread its wings. In an instant, it had already flown thousands of miles away. Ha ha ha, you want to leave? You'd better stay by my side and be my guardian dragon. Monk Huizhen laughed loudly. His big hand suddenly grabbed down. It was overwhelming and expanded with the wind. In an instant, it covered the sky and the earth. The lightning bird was instantly grabbed. With a scream, its divine body was almost torn apart. Then, it was dragged back by Monk Huizhen. It wanted to struggle, but there was no way to break free. Monk Huizhen was not in a hurry. He constantly chanted the sutra, which turned into talisman characters and drilled into the lightning bird's mind. Slowly, the lightning bird also finally obeyed. Its eyes were no longer so fierce. It had to be said that the Buddhists were indeed skilled in taming these ferocious creatures. After a long time, the lightning bird had completely surrendered. It directly turned into the size of a small sparrow and stood on Monk Huizhen's shoulder. Then, Monk Huizhen returned to the crowd and said, "Just in time, we still lack a means of transportation in the ancestral land. The lightning bird is just right." The lightning bird was now connected with Monk Huizhen's mind. It had almost instantly returned to the size of a mountain. Everyone directly jumped onto the back of the lightning bird. Swish! The lightning bird's figure was extremely fast. It constantly shuttled through space and flew into the distance. With Qin Lai leading in front, they would not lose their direction. Now, everyone was going to meet Qin Lai's real body. Even his incarnation was not very clear about where Qin Lai's real body was in closed-door training. He isolated his thoughts. This was also to avoid being caught by others once the incarnation was captured. Then, the location of Qin Lai's real body would be discovered. If a strong enemy came while he was in closed-door training, then it would be a terrible disaster. But no matter what, Qin Lai's real body would definitely go to where Sui Mu was. The ancestral land was vast and boundless. The lightning bird's flying speed was extremely fast. It constantly shuttled through. However, this ancestral land was worthy of being the ancestral land of the human clan. There were countless fierce existences in it. Along the way, from time to time, there would be bone spears directly flying from below. They actually hunted the lightning bird as wild prey. Yi Shiwen and the others couldn't help but suck in a mouthful of cold air. How could there be such a ferocious existence in other places? It even treated a lightning bird as prey. Although it was only a lightning bird, but it was indeed a powerful deity. The powerful existences in the ancestral land were more and more powerful than they had imagined. Fortunately, Yi Shiwen discovered it in time and hurriedly pushed it away with his hands. Otherwise, he would inevitably have to fight with the human clan powerhouses below. The lightning bird's speed was extremely fast. In terms of speed, it was almost no less than the powerhouses at the peak of the Eternal Realm. Therefore, it could be said to be free and unfettered in this area. Unless it encountered the powerhouses of the Eternal Realm, it could always escape. Who would have thought that it would encounter such a group of abnormal powerhouses at the peak of the Eternal Realm? It was easily taken down by them. Even so, it took them more than 10 days to fly across the hollow all the way. Finally, they flew near the Sui Mu. Although they had long been prepared, they were still deeply shocked when they saw the Sui Mu. Hundreds of thousands of miles away, they could still see an incomparably huge tree rooted in the vast land of hundreds of millions of miles. Countless fire spirits were flickering in the fire. From afar, it was as dazzling as the sun. Ordinary people would be blinded by a single glance. Yi Shiwen estimated that the trunk of this swearin tree was already millions of miles high. This was much larger than he had imagined. It was indeed worthy of being a divine tree that had existed since the time of Suirenshi. Perhaps it really had a powerful background. Not only Yi Shiwen, but Yi Shukong and the others were also extremely shocked when they saw the Sui Mu for the first time. It was not only because it was so huge, but also because it was also a witness and guardian of the rise of the human clan civilization. So big! What the hell? How big is it? Monk Huizhen swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "I'm afraid the world of Dharmalaksana is pale in comparison to the Sui Mu. I'm afraid there's no comparison at all. The Sui Mu is not just a divine wood. It is said that the Sui Mu is also a top-notch expert. Although he has not attained the Tao, his cultivation is unimaginably strong. He has helped us many times when the human clan was in trouble. It is said that when the Sui sovereign conquered the world and conquered the beasts, it was with the help of the Sui Mu." Qin Lai said, "Therefore, the Sui Mu is indeed the sacred tree of the human clan and also a great ancestor of the human clan. We must not disrespect him. Ha ha, this is really a kingdom of fire. The sea of fire is the place where I cultivate. If I want to cultivate here, I will get twice the result with half the effort. No wonder the ancestor of the human clan wanted me to come here, Aoyen said as his eyes lit up. His original form was a fire dragon. He was a natural fire god and had a natural affinity with fire. Cultivating in a world of fire like this would yield twice the results with half the effort. It was very suitable. Normally, other living beings were not allowed to get close to the Sui Mu, except for the human clan. However, because of the Qin Emperor, the Fire Dragon Palace was also allowed to cultivate near the Sui Mu. If we can get one of the branches, we will be rich, Yu Shukong said in amazement. Isn't that right? There is also a legend that the Sui Mu is actually a branch of the World Tree. When the real World Tree grows up, it will be able to support countless worlds. That would be really shocking. But in the ancient times, it was completely destroyed by the heavenly demon gods. Sigh, it's a pity that I didn't have the chance to see it. Qin Lai sighed and said. Everyone had heard of the legend of the World Tree, and felt that it was a pity. If they could see the World Tree again, it would be a very shocking scene. Yi Shiwen thought, wasn't there also a rumor that the Mingxin ancient tree was actually one of the seeds of the World Tree? Chapter 2430. Yi Shiwen faintly remembered that the enlightening mind ancient tree was also one of the seeds of the World Tree. It was rumored that there were countless worlds hanging on the World Tree in the distant ancient times. Later, the World Tree was destroyed in a great war between the gods and devils. Many worlds also fell apart and drifted everywhere in the world. However, the World Tree had split into many seeds, and had turned into many famous holy trees. It could even be said that many plant-type races and powerhouses could be traced back to the World Tree. Whether the rumor was true or not, the Sui Tree was an incredible existence. It once nurtured the glorious civilization of the human race, and was also the holy tree that protected the human race. They flew into the outer area of the Sui Tree and stopped. Like an invisible barrier, the Sui Tree was isolated from the outside world. In the world inside the Sui Tree, countless sparks fell down like meteors. It was a world of pure fire. Fire filled the sky, and there were even many powerful fire beasts that were born from it. They were the carriers of life. This was a world of fire. Those who cultivated the law of fire were like fish in water. It was a holy land for cultivation. It wasn't just Aoyen, the others were also staring at this scene with their eyes wide open. Because in this place, even though they didn't cultivate fire elemental laws, they could still borrow the fire to refine their golden bodies, allowing them to improve further. Everyone here came from a powerful background, and they all had incredible cultivation techniques for the golden body. They were all experts in the cultivation of the mortal body. Hence, cultivating here would be twice the result with half the effort. It was a holy land for Tao cultivation. They descended from the clouds and entered a city in the outer area of the Sui Tree. This was also a very famous holy city. Legend had it that one of the Suiran clan's branches took root in this holy city, the Sui Sovereign City. This was a city built to commemorate the achievements of the Sui Sovereign. More importantly, it was a city built by the descendants of the Sui Sovereign to protect the Sui Tree. This was the only city in the vicinity, and the other scattered tribes were not enough to provide a place for them to stay. Different from the cities in the outside world, there were many people in this city who wore animal skins. They looked like primitive people, but they had a powerful aura that made people not dare to approach them. Of course, there were also some people who dressed the same as the outside world. Over the years, although few people entered the ancestors' land, it was not completely isolated from the outside world. It was more or less affected by the outside world. It should be known that in the beginning there were no cities. It was completely in the form of tribes. But now, many powerful tribes had built cities. They didn't rush into the wood realm because it was useless. The wood realm was usually protected by a huge array formation. It was used to prevent outsiders from entering, and at the same time, it was also used to prevent the powerful living beings in the wood realm from escaping and wreaking havoc. Only when the heaven fire fruit bore fruit, which only appeared once every 10,000 years, would the array outside the wood gate weaken, and only then would the others have the chance to enter. At the same time, they were waiting for Qin Li's true body to arrive. Right now, his avatar was here. The moment Qin Li's true body appeared, he would be able to sense it immediately. The people in the city were already used to outsiders like them. After all, this wasn't some remote tribe. It still maintained the most primitive way of life, and it was the place that was least accepting of outsiders. It's time for the heaven fire fruit to bear fruit again. This time, I wonder how many peerless geniuses will appear. If it wasn't for the tacit agreement between the major forces, those who have obtained the heaven fire fruit once will not participate in the competition again. I'm afraid that the competition will be even more intense. This time is different from the past. It is said that there will be other fortuitous encounters. Therefore, some powerful geniuses and seeds will also appear in the list of competitors. Many of them were talking about this, they were also waiting. Although not all of them had the guts to compete for the heaven fire fruits, to them, there were countless fire elemental treasures in the wood sway realm that were extremely rare in the outside world. Some of them even wanted to hunt the fire elemental beasts in the wood sway realm. This would be a grand event. Countless experts would compete with each other. Some ancient experts would also join the competition. However, they wouldn't compete for the heaven fire fruit, nor would they get too close to the wood realm. The core area of the wood realm would be the stage for the geniuses of the various tribes. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough and I cultivate the Tao of Yin, so I don't dare to get too close to the wood realm. Otherwise, I would really like to see the competition between these geniuses. It only happens once every 10,000 years, and this time, it will be especially grand. Someone lamented. Because of the different cultivation methods, not everyone dared to get too close to the wood realm. Many of them also didn't dare to get too close to the wood realm because they were not strong enough. Otherwise, they might die in the hands of the ferocious beasts in the wood realm. This time, the Swearin clan will be the first to enjoy the benefit. I heard that their peerless genius Sui Qing came out from his closed-door cultivation 300 years ago. This is a peerless genius. Back then, even the main branch of the Swearin clan was attracted by him. They wanted to recruit him into the main branch and train him. That's right. Back then, Sui Qing defeated everyone. He had the demeanor of the Sui sovereign when he was young. I heard that the Swearin clan of the Sui sovereign city planned to train him to be the next clan master. Perhaps, in just a few thousand years, we will see an existence as strong as the Sui sovereign. Sui Qing, a peerless genius, fell into the ears of Yi Shiwen and the others. Everyone was a little excited. In the outside world, no one knew this name, but in the ancestral land, he was a very famous figure. Although it was just a compliment, who was the Sui sovereign? Throughout the ages, there weren't many who could be a match for the Sui sovereign. Even if he was only a rival of the Sui sovereign when he was young, it was still a great honor. But still, Sui Qing was a terrifying figure. I'm afraid that not only Sui Qing, but also the Horace, they will definitely not miss this grand event. Their cultivation techniques are all fire elemental skills, they will definitely not miss it. Isn't the little fire emperor of their race known as the supreme fire elemental master? How could they miss this opportunity? The little fire emperor, the one who was said to be born in the midst of fire. When he was born, the fire runes were sent down from the heavens, creating a unique fire elemental skill that belonged solely to him. Someone had clearly heard of the legend of the little fire emperor and couldn't help but gasp. What was a genius? Compared to these natural-born geniuses, they were not even on the same level. To put it simply, one was born while the other was raised by a stepmother. The heavens would also love a certain person or a certain powerful race. Yi Shiwen was secretly speechless as he listened. His roots were extremely ordinary compared to these gifted geniuses who were favored by the heavens. In fact, he was merely an ordinary human, nothing more. However, he didn't think that being gifted meant having the strongest physique. Didn't Emperor Qin walk on the path of becoming the strongest with an ordinary body and finally achieve the Tao? Being gifted meant that one's innate condition was slightly better than ordinary people, although their starting point might be the end point of many people's life. I'm afraid that it's not just that. The four great races of wind, fire, thunder, and lightning will all send their peerless geniuses. Some other powerful races will also not let go of such a good opportunity. Moreover, it is said that not only the heavenly fire fruit, but also the rarer fire essence, which is formed by the essence of the fire wood, will also appear. With or without a foundation, who wouldn't want to get such a divine item? Many people sighed with emotion. Although the heavenly fire fruit was good, it involved so many powerful people. Even if they went there, they wouldn't have a chance. This was a grand event of the human race that only happened once every 10,000 years. Many powerful people would come to participate in this event. But this is nothing. This time, it is said that even the God domain will send their people here. Someone from the God domain? Could it be one of the twin sons of the God domain? In these past years, the twin sons of the God domain have dazzled the ancestral land, sweeping through all invincible opponents. It seems so. I heard that the young son of the God domain twin sons, Chen Tinkong, personally came. But I also heard that the Inzi of the God domain twin sons went to the God-bearing star ocean to search for lucky chances. A great senior from the God domain died there. This is his lucky chance. It's good that they didn't come. Just one of them is invincible under the heavens, and now both of them are here. Who can compare? Suddenly, everyone saw a commotion on the street. They saw that the originally chaotic crowd automatically split into two sides. Two figures walked down the street. One was a man and one was a woman. The man was tall and had a handsome face. A powerful aura exuded from his body, faintly suppressing the surrounding area. As for the other, she was a stunningly beautiful woman. Her skin was as white as snow, and there was a hint of indifference on her face. A treasure sword hung from her waist, giving her an even more heroic appearance. That is the young son of the God domain twin sons. I saw him 300 years ago. He has become even stronger. 300 years ago, he was already unfathomable. I'm afraid he has already broken into the eternal realm. That's the realm of the gods' twin sons, Yangzi. He really is an unparalleled character like the legends say. But who is that woman beside him? She's standing in front of Chuntinkong and her bearing doesn't seem to be at a disadvantage. There's simply a match made in heaven. Everyone was talking. Yi Shiwen suddenly stood up. There was a look of disbelief in his eyes. This was because the woman standing next to the young son was none other than Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian, who had not been seen for hundreds of years, had actually come out from the abyss of death. In the past hundreds of years, he had also returned to the abyss of death several times. However, he had always been in a closed state, so he had almost forgotten about it. Now, he actually saw Yi Qianqian here. It's her. Qin Lai also recognized Yi Qianqian. Chapter 2431. He had been to the ancient wilderness before, so he had naturally seen Yi Qianqian. However, he did not expect to see her here. Yi Qianqian. Yi Shukong also recognized Yi Qianqian immediately. Back then, Yi Qianqian, and Yi Shiwen were regarded as one of the few young geniuses of the Yi family. Now that hundreds of years had passed, it could be said that things had changed. especially when he learned from Yi Shiwen that the imperial court was actually attacked by the Abyss Demon Lord, and the human race suffered heavy losses. Now that he could see an old friend here, even if it was an enemy, he had a different feeling. Moreover, his relationship with Yi Qianshan was not bad back then. The two walked slowly from the street, and Yi Shukong immediately shouted, "Yi Qianshan!" Hearing someone calling her, Yi Qianshan raised her head, but there was a bit of doubt and a bit of sternness in her eyes. She just glanced at them indifferently, then pretended that she did not hear anything and continued to walk forward with Chen Tinkong. On the second floor of the tea-house, everyone was a little stunned, especially Yi Shukong. He did not expect Yi Qianshan to completely ignore him, and his face could not help but turn a little ugly. Yi Shiwen frowned slightly. He had seen all of Yi Qianshan's reaction just now. In addition to some doubt, there was actually a bit of sternness. This behavior was very strange. Moreover, he was confident that even if Yi Qianshan did not remember Yi Shukong, it was absolutely impossible for her to forget him and not remember anything. This behavior was definitely not normal. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Yi Shiwen's mind. Could it be because she had received the inheritance of the Death Lord? He had never heard of receiving an inheritance that could cause such a change. This is not right. Qin Lai frowned and said, even if Yi Qianshan does not know us, she should not have such a fierce look in her eyes. After hearing Qin Lai's words, the others finally recalled the scene when they met just now. Indeed, there was a flash of sternness in Yi Qianshan's eyes. Did something happen to her? At this time, Yi Shukong's expression became a little better. It seemed that Yi Qianshan did not do it on purpose. Was she forced by Chen Tinkong? Qin Shuang'er said. It doesn't look like it. Qianshan's aura is surging, and her spiritual power is faintly discernible. It doesn't look like she was imprisoned. Yi Shiwen slowly said. It shouldn't be like this if he was being coerced. However, he also had some doubts in his heart. He was afraid that something must have happened. He was the only one who knew that Yi Qianshan had disappeared to receive the inheritance of the Death Master. It was an extremely tyrannical existence, and not every Almighty could have their own title. If one was able to obtain it, he would definitely be an extremely powerful figure. Then what is the reason? Otherwise, let's go out and ask. Monk Huizhen was a little impatient to continue guessing. No, something must have happened to Yi Qianshan, we don't know about it. If we come to her now, we'll only alert her. No matter what, we'll ask her after we enter the Wood Realm. Qin Lai said. Everyone could only nod in agreement. Yi Shiwen could only suppress the uneasy feeling in his heart. Just as Qin Lai had said, if something really happened at this time, they would become the target of public criticism. Everyone calmed themselves down. Soon, all sorts of experts arrived from all over the world. This was a grand gathering that only happened once every 10,000 years. It could be said that it was a grand gathering of all the unparalleled gods below the age of 10,000. It was definitely difficult to see so many geniuses gathering in other places. Moreover, it was far from just the human race. Experts from other races had also appeared. The creatures living in the ancestral land were not only the human race. This time, they would also come to participate in this grand gathering. On the second day, a huge winged serpent with 2 pairs of wings appeared. It soared into the sky and descended like a huge mountain. Then, it turned into a young man with a pair of wings on his back. Just by standing there, it made the nearby creature's hair stand on end. The so-called powerful was nothing more than this. In addition to this huge winged serpent, there was also an extremely powerful golden feather crow. This race was one of the descendants of the legendary golden crow. It had the bloodline of the golden crow. Its whole body was bright golden. The only difference was that it only had 2 legs, not 3 legs like the legendary golden crow. But once it grew a 3rd leg, it would truly purify its bloodline and become an invincible race. The Golden Feather Crow was a powerful race that had produced 2 demon kings. The most frightening thing about this Golden Feather Crow was that it had grown a 3rd leg. Although it was only in embryonic form and was not yet complete, it was only a matter of time before its blood was purified and it became a true Golden Feather Crow. This was something that shocked countless people. And these were just some of the more high-profile experts. There were even more low-key experts like Yi Shiwen and the others. Normally, the Swaywood realm wouldn't allow any races other than the human race to come close. But now was the time when the heavenly fire fruit was in its weakest state. Yi Shiwen and the others were also quietly waiting for Qin Lai's arrival. The fire elements in the sky were getting denser and denser. Everyone knew that this was because the Sway fire essence formation was gradually weakening. Therefore, more and more fire elements were slowly seeping out of the Swaywood realm, causing the sky to be dyed red. Seeing that the Swaywood realm was about to open but Qin Lai was still nowhere to be seen, everyone started to panic. Was he going to miss the ripening of the heavenly fire fruit? When the Swaywood realm was about to open, Qin Lai's incarnation suddenly shook and said, "He's here. My true self is here." After saying that, he turned into a ball of spiritual energy and disappeared into the sky. Not long after, Qin Lai finally appeared in front of everyone. But contrary to what everyone had imagined, Qin Lai was seriously injured. His clothes were messy and there were many wounds on his body. Some of them were so deep that the bones could be seen. It was obvious that he had gone through a terrifying battle. "What happened to you?" Yi Shiwen and the others quickly came forward and asked. "I encountered a powerful enemy." Qin Lai coughed out blood and said. But with the help of Yi Shiwen's Phoenix regeneration technique, he barely recovered. According to him, he had set off a long time ago, but he encountered the strongest expert of this generation of Ji family, Ji Xianhuang. Eventually, he was defeated and seriously injured. Ji Xianhuang, I have also heard of him. He is the invincible genius of Ji family. Many years ago, he had defeated the people of the ancestral land. But he has cultivated for thousands of years earlier than you, so it is normal that you are not his opponent. Qin Shuang'er said. No, I fought with him in the same realm, and I was defeated in the end, Qin Lai said unwillingly. It would have been fine if he had been suppressed in the same realm, but he had been defeated in the same realm. From the beginning to the end, I did not have the upper hand even once. I was completely suppressed. Whether it is magical power, paragon technique, or martial arts, I am not weaker than him. But I was not his opponent at all. He is an extremely powerful and terrifying existence. Everyone was speechless. It would have been fine if he had been suppressed in the same realm, but everyone knew how powerful Qin Lai was. He was almost invincible among his peers in the same realm, but he was suppressed in the end and defeated in a cruel manner. Yi Shiwen, you might be able to fight with him in the same realm, but the others are too weak, Qin Lai said while coughing blood. He is too strong. I have heard that he was born from the blood essence left behind by the Saint Emperor. He has the elegance of the Saint Emperor when he was young. I used to think that the Ji family was just flattering him, but I never thought that he was even more terrifying than the rumors. Under Yi Shiwen's full treatment, Qin Lai gradually recovered his supreme elegance. Compared to his doppelganger, Qin Lai's strength was much stronger and his elegance was much more outstanding. He might have come to the Woodwood realm, but it might not be for the fire essence. I heard from him that he is looking for some great fortune. If he obtains it, I am afraid that his cultivation will soar by several levels. Qin Lai said, no matter what, let's enter the Woodwood realm first. If we want to break into the eternal realm, we can only rely on the heaven fire fruit. It is too slow to cultivate by ourselves. Aoyan said. The others nodded and followed Aoyan into the Woodwood realm. By now, most of the powerful existences had already entered the Woodwood realm. When they entered, it was as if they had entered a sea of fire. Sparks were flying everywhere, and the temperature of these sparks was a few thousand degrees. It was impossible for ordinary life forms to survive here. In other words, even extraordinary life forms would not be able to survive here. There is still some time left. The heaven fire fruit won't bear fruit so soon. Before that, we can still search around here and split up. We will gather at the Woodwood realm in the end, Chinlai said. He was the most familiar with this place, so he had already planned everything out. And the others agreed. The only time they needed to work together was when they were competing for the heaven fire fruit and the fire essence. Yi Shiwen separated from the crowd and flew in all directions in 2s and 3s. Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry to fly away. Instead, he began to examine the surrounding environment. The law of fire attribute was very strong in this place. Even the air he breathed in was filled with endless flames. It was enough to burn a person's body into charcoal. However, this was not a problem for Yi Shiwen. On the contrary, this was an excellent place for cultivation. Not only could he cultivate the Nanming mythical fire, he could also temper his gilded tyrant form and push it to a higher realm. By then, he would be able to reach the supreme golden body Tao. He opened his mouth, and the law of fire attribute in the surroundings poured into his body like a mountain torrent, forming a Nanming mythical fire. Yi Shiwen wasn't a member of the Phoenix clan, so he had to nourish every Nanmingly fire for a long time. But now, he had actually opened his mouth and formed a Nanmingly fire. One could well imagine how dense the fire elements here were and how high the level was. Xiao. A sharp arrow pierced through the air. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.